Chapter 50. All of a sudden, a woman had walked into his heart. As he recalled the bits and pieces of his time with Qin Shuru, Xiao Chun experienced what love was for the first time. The memories of the two of them were all small and ordinary things. There were no vows of undying love. Even until now, Xiao Chun and Qin Shuru had never personally confessed their love for each other. Strictly speaking, the two of them had yet to officially confirm their relationship. However, now that he thought about it, it turned out that Qin Shuero had always been by his side so gently. She had always been so gentle and quiet. Qin Shuru knew that he was wholeheartedly focused on martial arts and did not have the time to think about relationship. He had always endured it and never gave himself any pressure. Perhaps in Qin Shuru's heart, he was already satisfied with just being by Xiao Chen's side as a friend. He went to the courtyard where Qin Shuero stayed in the second outer courtyard. The place was already empty. He walked around for a while before sitting down on a stone bench in the middle of the courtyard. It's been 3 years. So the beauty has always been by my side. He had to admit that he could no longer forget Qin Shuru. For the past 3 years, Qin Shuru had always been by his side quietly and gently. This was the first time he cared about a woman. Since that was the case, he couldn't let her leave him, and he definitely couldn't let other men take her away from him. Xiao Chen's plan was very simple. Half a year later, he would go to the Qin family and tell Qin Shuero what he hadn't said in the past 3 years. He would tell her loudly that she, Qin Shuero, was his woman from now on. Xiao Chen stayed in Astral 2 for an entire day until dusk before returning to the dustless residence. Half a year. Just as Qin Heng had said, everything in this world depended on strength. Therefore, the most important thing now was the 100 Spirits graveyard. Only by breaking through to the mystic Aeon realm in the 100 Spirits graveyard would he have the ability to protect the things he wanted to protect. Xiao Chen buried Qin Shuru's matter deep in his heart. He firmly believed that it would not be long before the two of them reunited. He would work hard to become stronger and protect this gentle and lovely woman for the rest of his life. She continued to cultivate. She originally thought that she would be able to have a period of peace in the following days. Unfortunately, things didn't go as she wished. On the 3rd day after Qin Shuero left, Mo Jie came to the dustless residence anxiously and shouted the moment he entered. Bad news, Xiao Chen. The Xiao family is in trouble. Mo Jie was anxious. When Xiao Chen heard that the Xiao family had appeared, he hurried over and asked, "What happened?" Chen Muxue brought Wang Wen and several attendants of the 10,000 Immortals Tower to Lingshan Prefecture City. The prefecture king of Lingshan Prefecture, Zhang Chang, has been killed by them and the people of the Xiao family have been captured. Mo Jie had just received the news and told Xiao Chen the truth. After hearing Mo Jie's words, a strong murderous intent emerged in Xiao Chen's eyes. It was Chen Muxue again. He had already let the Chen family off once, but now she was here again. From Mo Jie's words, Xiao Chen knew that the situation was urgent. Even the prefecture king, Zhang Chang, had been killed. Moreover, this time, Chen Muxue had the support of the 10,000 Immortals Tower, so she would definitely be more unscrupulous. Mo Jie also said that the martial king of Lingfeng country helped her. Now that the prefecture king of Lingshan Prefecture had changed hands, the Xiao family had lost all protection. Without saying a word, Xiao Chen went directly to Zhang Xian's residence. Seeing Xiao Chen rushing over with a murderous look, Zhang Xian asked curiously, "What's wrong?" "Master, the family is in trouble. I need the help of the Sword Pavilion." Without wasting any time, Xiao Chen directly told Zhang Xian the whole story without any formalities. After hearing that Xiao Chen's family was in trouble and that it was the disciples of the 10,000 Immortals Tower, Zhang Xian asked, "What do you want to do?" "I want 10 elders to return to Lingfeng country with me," Xiao Chen said. Chen Muxue must have come prepared this time. Although he was already one of the 5 hidden dragons, he had not yet grown up. If he wanted to completely solve this matter, he could only rely on the power of the East Sword Pavilion. After all, it would take time to transform one's talent into strength. 10 elders needed to return to Lingfeng country. After hearing Xiao Chen's request, Song Xian replied without any hesitation. I will ask the outer sect elders who have nothing to do to return with you. I will also ask your senior brother, Qin Heng, to go with you. As the hidden dragon of the East Sword Pavilion, Xiao Chen's importance to the East Sword Pavilion was self-evident. Therefore, Song Xian naturally would not reject such a small request. If it weren't for the fact that he had something to do these few days, Song Xian would have personally made a trip to Lingfeng country. Soon, under Song Xian's summons, all the outer sect elders who did not have any missions gathered together. There were a total of 18 people. At the same time, Qin Heng and another core disciple called Zhou Qi also set off together. There were a total of 20 people. 18 of them were Sword Pavilion elders whose cultivation had reached the heavenly human stage, and 2 core disciples whose cultivation had reached the earth mirror stage. When everyone was ready to set off, Mo Jie could not help but be shocked when he saw the lineup. He was even more amazed in his heart. As expected of a hidden dragon, a casual sentence from him was enough to get the Sword Pavilion to mobilize such a powerful lineup. To be honest, even an elder-level figure would not be able to get the Sword Pavilion to mobilize such a powerful lineup. It could be said to be a luxurious lineup. With such a lineup, it was enough to sweep through the entire Eastern Sun region, except for the other 4 giants who were equally famous as the East Sword Pavilion. There were a total of 5 green-feathered eagles. Without any delay, the group quickly rushed to Lingfeng country. Xiao Chen did not say a word along the way, but the strong murderous intent in his eyes showed that Xiao Chen really wanted to kill someone. This time, the Chen family would not be as lucky as before. They could let them go once, but there would definitely not be a second time. While Xiao Chen and the rest were rushing to Lingfeng country, everyone in the Xiao family in Lingshan County City had been tied up and brought to the main square in the city center. Chen Muxue stood in front of Xiao Qing and Bai Ruyue with a cold smile on her face. She looked down at them and said coldly, I have said that I will make the Xiao family pay the price in this life. Chen Muxue, you lunatic. Cherner has already let your Chen family off once. Xiao Qing said coldly when he heard Chen Muxue's words. Haha, Xiao Chen? Do you think it will be the same as last time? I know that Xiao Chen is a disciple of the East Sword Pavilion, but so what? The Myriad Immortal Tower is not afraid of the East Sword Pavilion. So what if Xiao Chen is here this time? I will spare your lives and wait for Xiao Chen to come. Then, I will kill everyone in the Xiao family in front of him. Chen Muxue burst into laughter. Please collect recommend reward. Chapter 51. He didn't know how Chen Muxue had joined the Myriad Immortal Tower. Hearing this, Xiao Qing was furious, but there was nothing he could do. Chen Muxue had already joined the Myriad Immortal Tower, and this time, she had brought several attendants of the Myriad Immortal Tower. Although they were only attendants, their cultivation had already reached the Earth Mirror realm. Such a cultivation was enough to become an elder in the Ju Mountain sect. Everything had changed too quickly. It was undeniable that Chen Muxue had also encountered her own opportunity. At the same time, the Ju Mountain sect master and the elders naturally stood on Chen Muxue's side. What a joke! They knew that Xiao Chen was a disciple of the Eastern Sword Pavilion, but compared to Chen Muxue, they didn't think that Xiao Chen had any chance of winning. This was because the person who had followed Chen Muxue this time was Wang Wen. Who was Wang Wen? He was the favorite of Viper Mu Qing. Offending him was the same as offending Mu Qing. Even if the Ju Mountain sect was given 100 guts, they wouldn't dare to offend a hidden dragon. Chen Muxue, you can kill me, but the rest of the Xiao clan has no enmity with you. Let them go, and I'll let you do whatever you want with me. Even Xiao Qing was in despair as he looked at Chen Muxue. He wanted to use his life to exchange for the lives of the rest of the Shao clan. Hearing this, Chen Muxue sneered. Shao Qing, do you think that's possible? Chen Muxue didn't intend to let anyone of the Shao clan go. Hearing this, everyone in the Shao clan fell into despair. Their gazes were filled with hatred and fear as they looked at Chen Muxue and Wang Wen. All along, Chen Muxue had the appearance of a vile person intoxicated with success. As for Wang Wen, he was incomparably indifferent. It was as if the hundreds of lives of the Shao clan were not worth mentioning in his eyes. It was really over. Last time, it was only the Ju Mountain sect, but this time, it was the myriad Immortal Tower and Wang Wen. Even if Shao Chen came, what could he do? In his heart, Shao Qing was even praying that Shao Chen wouldn't come because he would be courting death if he came. It seemed like there was no hope left. At the same time, Shao Chen and his group, who had not stopped along the way, could see Lingshan Commandery City from afar. At this time, the sky had already begun to brighten, and a ray of light shone on the earth from the east. Sitting on the back of the green-feathered eagle, Shao Chen could see the hundreds of people from the Shao clan kneeling on the main square in the center of the Lingshan Commandery City. Surrounding them were the disciples and elders of the Ju Mountain sect. In the center was Chen Muxue and Wang Wen, who was surrounded by the sect master of the Ju Mountain sect and the new Lingshan Commandery prince. When he saw his parents, who were tied up and kneeling on the ground, the murderous intent in Shao Chen's eyes exploded. Before they reached the Lingshan Commandery City, Shao Chen said coldly, "Today, I will wash the Lingshan Commandery City with blood. None of the people involved in this matter will be spared. Elders, please help me." Today, Shao Chen was going to wash the Lingshan Commandery City with blood. He had let the Chen clan and the Ma clan off last time, but it seemed that he was too kind. Since that was the case, he could only use blood to tell everyone that from now on, anyone who dared to provoke the Shao clan would have to be prepared to pay a painful price. As soon as Shao Chen finished speaking, the 18 elders of the East Sword Pavilion nodded slightly. Then, they jumped up at the same time and rushed into the Lingshan Commandery City in a few leaps. Although heavenly human stage experts could not fly in the air, they could still jump in the air for a short period of time at an extremely fast speed. The 18 elders rushed into the Lingshan Commandery City first because Tsang Xian had already said that they would listen to Shao Chen's command. Therefore, after hearing Shao Chen's command, the 18 elders did not hesitate and rushed into the Lingshan Commandery City and started a bloody massacre. Starting from the city gate, clouds of blood mist exploded. These people were the guards of the Lingshan Commandery City. Everywhere they passed, blood flowed like a river. Facing the 18 experts who suddenly appeared, the people of the Lingshan Commandery City were completely stunned. Who were these people? They started a massacre as soon as they entered the city. Moreover, from the looks of it, they couldn't wait to slaughter the entire Lingshan Commandery City. A wave of extreme fear quickly spread. However, as time passed, the people realized that these people only killed those who were involved in the Shao family's matter and did not kill the ordinary people. Realizing this, the people's hearts became lively again. It seemed that things weren't that simple. The Chen family had made a comeback and the Shao family was once again in danger. This news had long spread in the Lingshan Commandery City and was no longer a secret. At this time, the 18 mysterious experts seemed to have come for the Shao family. They started a massacre at the city gate. The 18 heavenly human stage experts looked down on everyone and no one could stop them. Soon, the news reached Wang Wen's ears. Wang Wen's face darkened when he heard that there were experts who barged into the Lingshan Commandery City. "Ah, there are still people who dare to mess with us. Deacons, I'll have to trouble you to take action." He brought a total of 6 deacons from the myriad Immortal Tower. Wang Wen's attitude towards these 6 deacons was still relatively polite because he knew very well that these 6 deacons obeyed his orders completely out of respect for Mu Qing. Otherwise, how could a mere outer court disciple like him command these deacons? Hearing Wang Wen's words, the deacon in the lead nodded indifferently. Then, the 6 of them rushed out of the square at the same time. They didn't think that these people were experts. With the 6 deacons around, they should be able to stop them. Looking at the backs of the 6 people, Wang Wen's face regained its calmness. Perhaps in his opinion, there was no existence that could threaten him in this small Lingfeng country. Even the true dragon of the Shao family, Shao Chen, was just an ordinary disciple of the East Sword Pavilion. What could the East Sword Pavilion do if they annihilated his entire family? They couldn't possibly fight to the death with the Myriad Immortal Tower for an ordinary disciple. The 6 deacons of the Myriad Immortal Tower hurriedly flew out and soon met the group of elders of the Eastern Sword Pavilion. From afar, the 6 of them could feel the unique aura of a Heaven Stage expert. Suddenly, the 6 of them had a drastic change in expression as they involuntarily cried out in alarm. Heaven Realm experts, how is this possible? Oh my God, a total of 18 Heaven Realm experts, how is this possible? It's the East Sword Pavilion, they are the elders of the East Sword Pavilion, and there are a total of 18 of them. What did you say? 18 elders of the East Sword Pavilion? Why would all the elders of the East Sword Pavilion appear here? It was precisely because of this that the 6 deacons of the Myriad Immortal Tower were so flustered. One must know that the number of elders in the East Sword Pavilion was not many. The total number of elders in the East Sword Pavilion would not exceed 100. But now, a total of 18 of them had appeared in Lingshan County City. What was going on? Could it be that the East Sword Pavilion had gone mad? Please collect, recommend, reward. Chapter 52. He had no intention of fighting with the 18 elders of the East Sword Pavilion. What a joke! How could he fight against 18 elders of the Sky Realm? They only needed to move their fingers to crush you. Without any hesitation, he turned around and the 6 deacons of the Myriad Immortals Tower fled. The elders saw the movements of the 6 deacons, but they did not make a move. After all, the 6 deacons could not run away. Killing them was as easy as raising a hand. There was no need to worry about it. They easily crushed the deacons along the way. On the central square, the 6 deacons who had left earlier returned. Seeing the 6 deacons, Wang Wen asked with a smile, "Deacon, how is it? Has it been settled?" He did not notice the change in the 6 deacons' expressions. When he heard Wang Wen's words, one of the deacons could not help but scold, "Settled your sister?" The deacons are the elders of the East Sword Pavilion. There are 18 of them. How did you settle them? This kid was simply an idiot. Facing 18 elders of the East Sword Pavilion, he actually asked if it was settled. Was he kidding? Hearing the deacon's scolding, Wang Wen's expression changed greatly. He no longer had the calm expression from before. He said with an expression as if he had seen a ghost, "What did you say? 18 elders of the East Sword Pavilion? Are you sure you didn't see wrongly?" 18 elders of the Eastern Sword Pavilion appearing together was too exaggerated. Unless there was a large-scale battle or some major movement, it was impossible for the elders of the Eastern Sword Pavilion to appear together like this under normal circumstances. It was no wonder that Wang Wen would have such a reaction. Just as Wang Wen's voice fell, the 18 elders of the East Sword Pavilion had already appeared outside the square. Everywhere they went, blood flowed like a river. Those from the Ju Mountain sect and the Duke Manor were all killed. Their figures fluttered. Before Wang Wen and the others could react, the 18 elders had already surrounded the entire main square. There were only 18 of them, but they surrounded the huge main square. Although the distance between each elder was at least a few hundred meters, when they exploded with the pressure of the Sky Realm at the same time, everyone in the main square could not help but feel suffocated and cold sweat dripped down their back. The situation was now under complete control. At the same time, Shao Chen led Qin Heng and Zhou Qi into the city from outside Xingshan City. All the obstacles had been swept away by the elders. Walking on the street full of corpses, Shao Chen looked indifferent, but the murderous intent in his eyes grew stronger. Without saying a word, he walked towards the main square at a moderate pace. Along the way, the people in Lingshan County City quickly recognized Shao Chun. The Shao clan's true dragon had returned at this time. Could the massacre just now have been the reinforcements that the Shao clan's true dragon had invited? No one dared to block Shao Chen's path. At the same time, in the main plaza, Wang Wen's group, who were surrounded by 18 Eastern Sword Pavilion elders, slowly recovered from their shock. Wang Wen suppressed the shock in his heart and spoke politely to the elders. Elders of the Eastern Sword Pavilion, what are you all doing? Wang Wen had a bad premonition in his heart. So many elders of the Eastern Sword Pavilion had appeared here at the same time and killed so many people along the way. Now that they had surrounded him and his group, it was obvious that the Eastern Sword Pavilion was here for the Shao clan. However, Wang Wen didn't know what exactly was so important about the Shao clan that the Eastern Sword Pavilion would make such a big fuss over it. He couldn't figure out why the Eastern Sword Pavilion valued the Shao clan so much. But soon, Wang Wen suddenly realized that for the Eastern Sword Pavilion to mobilize so many elders, the only explanation was that the hidden dragon of the Eastern Sword Pavilion, Shao Chun, was Shao Chun of the Shao clan. The two of them were the same person, and they didn't have the same name. Thinking of this, Wang Wen's heart was filled with fear. If they were really the same person, then today's matter. One must know that the demon sword Shao Chun was in existence on the same level as his master, Murin. Others might be afraid of Murin, but would Shao Chun? Obviously, it wouldn't. Wang Wen had the urge to vomit blood. At the same time that Wang Wen guessed this, Shao Chun had already brought Qin Heng and Wang Wen to the main square. Seeing Shao Chun slowly walking over, Wang Wen's expression changed greatly. Almost instinctively, he pointed at Shao Chun and asked, You're from the Shao clan? How is this possible? Shao Chun's surname was also Shao. At this moment, he appeared here with a face full of killing intent. Without thinking, Wang Wen had already guessed everything. The Shao Chun that Qin Mushu spoke of was the demon sword Shao Chun who had just emerged from the Eastern Sword Pavilion. The two of them were the same person, and not someone with the same name as Qin Mushu said. Wang Wen suddenly had the urge to kneel down. However, Qin Mushu, who was standing beside him, still hadn't reacted. Seeing Shao Chun appear, Qin Mushu coldly shouted, Shao Chun, I didn't think that you would dare to appear here. But even if you're here, what can you do? Last time, the Ju Mountain sect couldn't suppress you. How about this time, the Myriad Immortal Tower? Just based on your identity as a disciple of the Eastern Sword Pavilion, do you think I will be afraid of you? Today, I will destroy the entire Shao clan in front of you. Qin Mushu coldly shouted. But before she could finish her words, Wang Wen directly slapped her and scolded with a sinister expression. Enough, you idiot! Shut up! He was really going to be killed by Qin Mushu. If he knew that Shao Chun of the Shao clan was the demon sword Shao Chun, Wang Wen wouldn't have come no matter what. This was simply courting death. Shao Chun could easily kill him, and the Myriad Immortal Tower wouldn't say anything. At most, they would ask for some compensation. But he couldn't. If he dared to attack Shao Chun, the Eastern Sword Pavilion would dare to go to war with the Myriad Immortal Tower. Shao Chun ignored Qin Mushu and looked at her indifferently, as if he was looking at a dead person. After being slapped by Wang Wen, Qin Mushu was also stunned. She looked at Wang Wen with a look of disbelief. Wang Wen couldn't be bothered to explain anything. He trotted all the way to Shao Chun and said with a trembling voice, Senior brother Shao Chun, I didn't know it was you. I really didn't know. Everything was this damn bitch's trick. In the Sword Devil Mountain range, Wang Wen was by Mu Qing's side, so he had seen Shao Chun with his own eyes. Hearing Wang Wen's words, Shao Chun didn't have any impression of this person. He glanced at Wang Wen and said indifferently, How many people came from the Myriad Immortal Tower other than Qin Mushu? Senior brother, including me, there are a total of 7 people. 7 people? Good, inform Mu Qing and ask him to come and get them. If he doesn't come, you guys don't have to leave. Let Mu Qing come and get them. Hearing Xiao Chen's words, Chen Muxue, who was not far away, was stunned. Who was Mu Qing? He was the hidden dragon of the myriad immortal tower. His status was so high that even the elders couldn't be compared to him. But Xiao Chen, he actually calmly asked Mu Qing to come and get them? Could it be that he wasn't afraid of Mu Qing? Also, after hearing Xiao Chen's words, Wang Wen didn't dare to refute. Instead, he nodded vigorously. Please add recommend reward. Chapter 53. Chen Muxue was shocked by Wang Wen's attitude towards Xiao Chen. She wasn't a fool. When she saw how terrified Wang Wen was in front of Xiao Chen, Chen Muxue also realized that Xiao Chen was the hidden dragon of the East Sword Pavilion. Chen Muxue had already realized this, but she couldn't accept this fact from the bottom of her heart. How could this be? How could Xiao Chen be the hidden dragon of the East Sword Pavilion? One had to know that the 5 hidden dragons of the Eastern Sun region were all admired by the younger generation. How could Xiao Chen? She looked at Xiao Chen in a daze, as if the sky was about to collapse. At the same time, the people from the Chen family and the Ju Mountain sect who came with Chen Muxue were also terrified. This was especially true for the Ju Mountain sect. They were originally tied to the Xiao family, but this time, because Chen Muxue brought Wang Wen here, the Ju Mountain sect betrayed them without hesitation and helped Chen Muxue deal with the Xiao family. One could imagine how Xiao Chen would treat the Ju Mountain sect. This time, it wouldn't be so easy. Xiao. Young Master Xiao, Everyone already knew Xiao Chen's identity. Demon Sword Xiao Chen. The sect master of the Ju Mountain sect braced himself and quickly walked over to Xiao Chen. He lowered his head and said with beads of sweat on his forehead. He wanted to beg for mercy and beg for Xiao Chen's forgiveness, but unfortunately, Xiao Chen ignored him and walked directly to Xiao Qing and Bai Ruyue, personally untying the ropes on their bodies. Father, Mother, I'm late, Xiao Chen said softly as he helped them up. After saying this, he carefully checked the condition of Xiao Qing and Bai Ruyue's bodies. After confirming that they were fine, he let out a sigh of relief. He released the Xiao family members in front of Wang Wen, Chen Muxue, and the others. During the entire process, no one dared to stop him. Because the Xiao family members had suffered a lot in the past few days and their bodies were relatively weak, they didn't need to participate in the following matters. Xiao Chen asked them to return home first, and he would take care of the rest. After hearing Xiao Chen's words, Xiao Qing didn't say much. He reminded them to be careful and left the main square with the Xiao family members. Zhou Qi, a core disciple, accompanied them along the way to protect the Xiao family members. After hundreds of people left, the Ju Mountain sect, Wang Wen, and the new Lingshan Dukes groups, and there were less than 100 people. Without saying anything else, Xiao Chen went to the high platform where Wang Wen was sitting and sat down. He looked down at Wang Wen and asked, I'll give you 3 days. If Mu Qing doesn't come in 3 days, all of you can stay here. Xiao Chen could spare Wang Wen and the 6 deacons of the 10,000 Immortals Tower. However, the prerequisite was that Mu Qing had to come personally to pick them up. Of course, she still had to pay the price. As for the others, Xiao Chen wouldn't give them another chance. Otherwise, who could guarantee that what happened today wouldn't happen again in the future? As for why Xiao Chen didn't kill Wang Wen and the 6 deacons of the 10,000 Immortals Tower, the main reason was to save some face for the 10,000 Immortals Tower. After all, if he killed them all, the 10,000 Immortals Tower would definitely not let the matter rest and would inevitably demand an explanation from the East Sword Pavilion. Moreover, they weren't the masterminds of this matter. It didn't matter whether he killed them or not. Therefore, it was better to just let them go. Of course, the prerequisite for all of this was that Mu Qing had to come personally and pay a price that Xiao Chen was satisfied with. After hearing Xiao Chen's words, Wang Wen didn't dare to hesitate. He immediately took out a voice transmission talisman and told Mu Qing about this matter. Mu Qing was in the 10,000 Immortals Tower. After receiving Wang Wen's message, Mu Qing was instantly enraged, asking her to go personally to pick them up? Otherwise, he would kill Wang Wen and the rest. Arrogant, simply too arrogant. Mu Qing's expression turned ugly as she said coldly, Xiao Chen, fine. I'd like to see what makes you think you can make me go personally to pick them up. Despite her anger, Mu Qing still rushed to Lingshan City. At the same time, she also brought along a group of elders from the 10,000 Immortals Tower. It was yet another clash between the hidden dragons. After waiting for 2 days in Lingshan City, Chen Muxue and the rest were imprisoned by Xiao Chen in the main square of Lingshan City. On the afternoon of the 3rd day, Mu Qing finally arrived at Lingshan City. Several red-crowned cranes descended from the sky. Mu Qing and more than 10 elders from the 10,000 Immortals Tower jumped off the backs of the cranes and landed steadily in the middle of the main square. After appearing, Mu Qing immediately looked at Xiao Chen and said coldly, I'm here. Xiao Chen, what do you want? After 2.5 days, Xiao Chen arrived at Lingshan City from the 10,000 Immortals Tower. After hearing Mu Qing's words, he took a step forward and appeared in front of Mu Qing in an instant. What do I want? He, Mu Qing, your 10,000 Immortals Tower wants to destroy my family. Now you're asking me what I want? I want to kill you. Is that okay? Xiao Chen, you're courting death. After hearing Xiao Chen's words, Mu Qing shouted coldly and directly struck out with her palm. In Mu Qing's opinion, she had already given Xiao Chen enough face by coming here personally. However, it seemed that Xiao Chen did not want to let them go so easily. Without any warning, Mu Qing directly chose to attack. Mu Qing did not think that Xiao Chen would be her opponent. Although Mu Qing had witnessed the battle between Xiao Chen and Chen Ling in the Sword Demon Mountain Range, and admitted that Xiao Chen did indeed have the potential of a hidden dragon, it would be difficult for her to defeat him in the same realm. However, Xiao Chen's cultivation was only at the completion of the Yellow Realm. If Chen Ling had not suppressed his own cultivation, Xiao Chen would not have been able to defeat Chen Ling. Now, Mu Qing would not suppress her own cultivation. Under the situation where there was a gap in cultivation, it was simply a pipe dream for Xiao Chen to think that he could defeat a hidden dragon of the same realm. She thought that Xiao Chen's cultivation was still at the completion of the Yellow Realm. Of course, she could not blame Mu Qing for thinking this way. How long had it been since the battle in the Sword Demon Mountain Range? In such a short time, it was impossible for Xiao Chen to have a breakthrough. In her heart, she had already decided to crush Xiao Chen and then leave with Wang Wen and the others. Mu Qing had a good idea, but reality gave her a hard slap in the face. Facing Mu Qing's palm, Xiao Chen did not dodge. Instead, she casually punched out. The fist and the palm collided. Facing Mu Qing, Xiao Chen was not at a disadvantage at all. After all, Mu Qing did not suppress his cultivation, but Xiao Chen actually blocked it. Moreover, it seemed that he still had some strength left. Frowning slightly, Mu Qing immediately felt that Xiao Chen's cultivation had broken through. She immediately looked at Xiao Chen in disbelief and said, "You've broken through?" In such a short time, Xiao Chen had broken through. Did this mean that Xiao Chen's cultivation had completely caught up with the other 4 hidden dragons? Please add recommend reward. Chapter 54. Since the battle in the Sword Demon Mountain, Mu Qing had acknowledged Xiao Chen's potential. However, in his heart, Mu Qing did not pay much attention to Xiao Chen. One of the main reasons was that Xiao Chen's cultivation was lower than the 4 of them. In the battle between hidden dragons, it was impossible to challenge someone who was at a higher level. Since they were all hidden dragons, who did not have the ability to kill someone who was at a higher level, if one's cultivation was lower, then one's combat strength would naturally be lower as well. Before Xiao Chen's cultivation caught up with the four of them, Mu Qing did not think that Xiao Chen could pose any threat to him. He had thought that it would not be easy for Xiao Chen to catch up with the four of them. After all, while Xiao Chen was making progress, they were also making progress. That was why it was said that if one was slow, one would always be slow. However, Mu Qing did not expect that Xiao Chen had already broken through to the completion of the Yellow Realm after parting ways in the Sword Demon Mountain. His cultivation had completely caught up with the other four hidden dragons. Facing the slightly surprised Mu Qing, Xiao Chen still said calmly, "Do you want to continue? If you want to fight, I will accompany you. Whether it is a simple competition or a life-and-death battle, I will accompany you to the end. Today, if you want to take your people away, you must give me a satisfactory explanation." Xiao Chen's words were very calm, and his voice was not loud. However, in the ears of the people around, it was like a thunderclap. Among the people of the same generation, no, even among the superiors of the older generation, who dared to talk to Mu Qing like this? In the entire Dongyang region, perhaps only the other four of the 5 hidden dragons dared to do so. Wang Wen's face was full of despair. Qin Mushue's face was dull. Mo Jie was extremely excited. The elders of the Dongjian Pavilion looked unfriendly. Everyone looked at Xiao Chen and Mu Qing, who were standing opposite each other with different expressions. His attitude was very tough, and he did not give Mu Qing any face at all. Hearing this, Mu Qing's anger almost reached the breaking point. However, because Xiao Chen had broken through to the completion of the Yellow Realm, their cultivations were on the same level. If they fought to the death, Mu Qing was not sure that he could win. Back then at the Sword Demon Mountain Range, Xiao Chen's superb swordsmanship had indeed caused Mu Qing to be incomparably fearful. This was also the origin of the demon sword's name. A demonic swordsman was not someone who only had a superficial appearance. If they were to really go all out in a fight to the death, it was likely that both sides would end up seriously injured and the other 3 fellows would benefit from it. One had to know that whether it was Mu Qing or Xiao Chen, their opponents weren't just each other. There was also Chen Ling of the Sky Blade, Lin Xing of the Tyrant Spear, and Zhao Weiyun of the Sky Flame. In addition, the 100 Spirits Graveyard was about to open. If they were to go all out in a fight with Xiao Chen at this time, it was very likely that they would lose the big picture. Moreover, the 10,000 Immortals Tower was not in the right. If things got out of hand, the 10,000 Immortals Tower would definitely back down. Mu Qing's expression was uncertain as he weighed the pros and cons in his heart. In the end, he said with a gloomy face, "What do you want before you are willing to let him go?" After a moment of silence, he finally said such a sentence. Hearing this, the surrounding people were completely stunned. Mu Qing actually chose to back down. Facing Xiao Chen, Mu Qing backed down. This was the first time in the East Sword Pavilion that someone could force the Viper Mu Qing to back down. Hearing this, Xiao Chen sneered and said, "It's very simple. 50,000 low-grade spiritual stones and 1,000 vitality-enhancing pills, 50,000 low-grade spiritual stones? 1,000 vitality-enhancing pills?" Hearing this, Mu Qing immediately shouted angrily, "Xiao Chen, don't push me too far. This is impossible." Without any hesitation, Mu Qing directly refused. Not only Mu Qing, but even the surrounding elders of the East Sword Pavilion sucked in a breath of cold air. Wasn't this an exorbitant demand? No one would have thought that Xiao Chen would be so ruthless. 50,000 low-grade spiritual stones was already a huge sum of money, but it was nothing compared to 1,000 soul-raising pills. One soul-raising pill was worth 500 low-grade spiritual stones, so 1,000 pills would be worth 500,000 low-grade spiritual stones. Originally, they thought that Xiao Chen only asked Mu Qing to come here as a formality. Who would have thought that Xiao Chen really wanted to make Mu Qing vomit blood? Mu Qing stared at Xiao Chen crazily as if he couldn't wait to swallow him alive. However, facing Mu Qing's gaze, Xiao Chen said with a calm face, "What, you don't want to? Then you can leave, or stay and fight with me. But if you lose, I'm afraid that today, your house master will come and take you away. At that time, it won't be something that can be settled with just 1,000 vitality-enhancing pills. A hidden dragon is worth at least 10,000 vitality-enhancing pills. Arrogant, too arrogant." However, facing such an arrogant Xiao Chen, Mu Qing's final answer was, "Here, let them go." Mu Qing still held back and threw a storage ring to Xiao Chen. Mu Qing's heart was bleeding. After compensating so many things, even with Mu Qing's status, it would be difficult for him to explain to the higher-ups of the 10,000 Immortal Tower. Of course, the 10,000 Immortal Tower wouldn't punish Mu Qing for such a small amount of things. After receiving the storage ring and checking the things inside, Xiao Chen waved his hand to Emojia. Let them go. They had already made Mu Qing bleed, and it was obvious that Mu Qing was on the verge of going berserk. After releasing Wang Wen and the 6 attendants of the Myriad Immortal Tower, the 7 of them quickly came to stand behind Mu Qing. "What about the other one? That woman is also a disciple of my 10,000 Immortal Tower." After releasing Wang Wen and the others, Mu Qing glanced at Chen Muxue and noticed that she was wearing the outer disciple uniform of the 10,000 Immortal Tower. Hearing Mu Qing's words, Chen Muxue was overjoyed, thinking that Mu Qing was going to save her. However, Xiao Chen's answer sent Chen Muxue straight to hell. "Her? You can't take her away, she has to stay." Wang Wen and the others could leave, but Chen Muxue must die. After hearing Xiao Chen's answer, Mu Qing coldly stared at Xiao Chen, then left with Wang Wen and the others without saying a word. In the end, Mu Qing didn't care about Chen Muxue's life or death. Perhaps in Mu Qing's opinion, the death of an ordinary outer disciple was not worth his attention. After Mu Qing and the others left, the Chen family, Ju Mountain sect, and the new Duke of Lingshan were all ashen-faced. They knew what they were going to face next. As expected, Xiao Chen glanced at the crowd indifferently and said, "Kill them all." The Chen family and the Ju Mountain sect. He directly gave the order to kill them. After hearing Xiao Chen's words, the crowd cried and begged for mercy. However, Xiao Chen didn't care about their pleas at all. He grabbed the new Duke of Lingshan and left the main square. On this day, the sky of Lingshan County changed completely. The Chen family was annihilated, and the largest sect, the Ju Mountain sect, was also completely destroyed. Even the sect was razed to the ground by 2 elders of the East Sword Pavilion, and all the treasures in the sect were plundered. Please collect, recommend, reward. Chapter 55. Chen Muxue was dead, the Chen family was finished, and so was the Ju Mountain sect. In just one day, the situation in Lingshan County had changed completely. Perhaps Chen Muxue did not believe that Xiao Chen could kill her so calmly without any regard for their past relationship. However, Chen Muxue was the one who asked for it. Xiao Chen had already let her and the Chen family off once. Because of their past relationship, Xiao Chen did not hurt the Chen family at all and only asked them to leave Lingshan County City. She didn't feel the slightest gratitude for Xiao Chen's mercy. On the contrary, the hatred in her heart grew even stronger. If Chen Muxue no longer entangled herself in the past and cultivated in peace in the Myriad Immortals Tower, she would definitely be able to become a celestial being warrior in the future. After all, she was born charming and had an elder as her master. Unfortunately, Chen Muxue did not grab hold of such an opportunity. Hatred blinded her eyes and led her to a dead end step by step. Other than the new Lingshan County king, the rest were all killed. Their corpses were hung in the main square of Lingshan County City, so that everyone could see that this was the outcome of those who dared to provoke the Xiao family. The Ju Mountain sect was no exception. The outside world was in an uproar because of this incident. At this moment, Xiao Chen was chatting with Xiao Qing and Bai Riue in the Xiao family. In the outside world, Shao Chun was one of the 5 great hidden dragons and the pride of the age. However, at home, in front of his parents, Shao Chun was always an obedient child. Father, mother, I will be leaving tomorrow. The 100 Spirits graveyard is about to open. I need to concentrate on my cultivation and prepare for it. Without much delay, Shao Chun said. Upon hearing that Shao Chun was leaving tomorrow, Shao Qing and Bai Rui's eyes flashed with loneliness. However, they quickly returned to normal and smiled. Chun'er has grown up. Go. Everything is fine at home. If you miss home, just come back, Shao Qing said. Chun'er, you have to be careful outside. Don't catch a cold. Being alone outside is not the same as being at home. You have to learn to take care of yourself. Compared to Shao Qing, Bai Rui was much more long-winded. She held Shao Chen's hand and kept reminding him. His father, Shao Qing, did not speak much, but his mother, Bai Rui, seemed to have endless things to say. However, no matter how much she spoke, Shao Chun and Bai Rui, he could feel a strong sense of concern. It was a completely different way of expressing himself. However, the care and concern contained in Shao Qing's simple words was not inferior to Bai Rui's. However, as a man, there were too many things that Shao Qing wanted to say that were buried in his stomach. Shao Chun chatted with his parents until late into the night before returning to his room to rest. The next morning, everyone prepared to leave. Before leaving, Shao Chun gave Shao Qing nearly 80% of the treasures in the Ju Mountain sect for him to nurture the younger generation of the Shao family. Of course, Shao Chun naturally left the good stuff for his parents. Currently, Shao Qing and Bai Rui were only at the perfect mysterious Yuan stage. With these cultivation resources, it would not take long for them to break through to the Earth Clear Mirror stage. Under the gazes of the Shao family members, everyone leaped onto the back of the green feather eagles. Accompanied by an eagle cry, several green feather eagles soared into the sky and quickly disappeared into the horizon. Chun'er. Bai Rui's eyes reddened as she looked at Shao Chen's departing figure. She was reluctant to part with him. All right, Chun'er has already grown up. He is no longer that little fellow who needs our protection. The world that belongs to him will definitely be wider than ours. Shao Qing consoled as he looked at the horizon as well. He had successfully resolved the crisis of the Shao family. Moreover, after this bloody deterrence, he believed that no one would dare to provoke the Shao family. As such, he had resolved his worries. However, before returning to the East Sword Pavilion, Shao Chun still had one more thing to do, and that was King Wu. Since he wanted to intimidate until the end. This time, it was not just the Lingshan County. Shao Chun wanted to tell the entire Lingfeng country that the Shao family was inviolable. King Wu's shadow was behind the death of the previous Duke, Zhang Chang. It could be said that King Wu was also one of the accomplices. It just so happened that Shao Chun planned to use King Wu as an example. On one hand, he wanted to intimidate the world. On the other hand, he wanted to send a message to the royal family of the Lingfeng country. As long as the Shao family was still in the Lingfeng country, the royal family had better not have any ill intentions. Otherwise, King Wu would serve as a warning. Knowing Shao Chen's thoughts, King Wu happened to be a member of the royal family of the Lingfeng country. Moreover, he was Mo Jie's uncle and the younger brother of the current emperor of the Lingfeng country. The thought of Shao Chen laying his hands on his uncle made Mo Jie rather upset. However, he didn't know how to persuade Shao Chen. After all, it was King Wu who was in the wrong first. Besides, he shouldn't have provoked Shao Chen this jinx. Although Shao Chen had always been easygoing, once his bottom line was crossed, there was almost no room for mercy. He was an extremely stubborn person, and Mo Jie knew this very well. Therefore, it would be difficult for Shao Chen to let King Wu off. After all, King Wu had indeed interfered in the matters of the Lingshan County. They rushed all the way to the imperial capital of the Lingfeng country. At the same time, King Wu, who had received the news from the Lingshan county, rushed to the palace and requested to meet the emperor of the Lingfeng country, Mo Yao. "Your Majesty, save me." In the back garden of the palace, King Wu knelt before Mo Yao as soon as he entered and yelled with a pale face. Seeing King Wu's expression, Mo Yao sighed helplessly. As the ruler of a country, he naturally knew about what happened in Lingshan County. However, he did not expect Xiao Chun of the Xiao clan to be the demon sword Xiao Chun, who had recently become famous. Mo Yao stood up and helped King Wu up. "Back then, I told you not to interfere in the matters of the Xiao family, but you didn't listen. You offended a hidden dragon for Wang Wen. Now, if he wants to kill you, you won't be able to escape. You have to understand that although our Mo family is the royal family of the Lingfeng country and can cover the sky with one hand, that is only limited to the territory of the Lingfeng country. In the entire Eastern Sun region, the true masters are still the 5 giants. Before them, our Mo family is nothing more than an ant. As a member of the royal family, the Mo family seemed to have limitless glory, but it also depended on who they were compared to. Compared to ordinary people and ordinary wealthy families, the Mo family was indeed incomparably powerful. Even when compared to the Ju Mountain sect, the Mo family was much stronger. However, when compared to the 5 giants of the East Sword Pavilion, the Mo family was not worth mentioning. If King Wu had only offended an ordinary disciple, or even a core disciple, the Mo family would have been able to settle the matter by paying a certain price. However, it was a pity that King Wu had offended Xiao Chen, the demon sword Xiao Chen. If Xiao Chen was determined to kill King Wu, the Mo family would be helpless. Hidden Dragon. This wasn't just a simple title. To a certain extent, every hidden dragon represented a giant in the Eastern Sun region. Please collect, recommend, reward. Chapter 56. It was impossible for them to become enemies with Xiao Chun. Otherwise, as long as Xiao Chun gave the order, the East Sword Pavilion would not hesitate to annihilate the Mo family. There was no doubt that in the eyes of the East Sword Pavilion's higher-ups, 100 Mo families were not comparable to one Xiao Chun. They were close to despair. At the same time, Xiao Chun had arrived at the imperial capital with the speed of the green feather eagle in less than 4 hours after setting off from Lingshan County City. As the capital of a country, the imperial capital of Lingfeng country was indeed very prosperous. If it was in the past, Xiao Chun might have taken a second look at it. However, after going to Shangri-La, the imperial capital of Lingfeng country was nothing special in Xiao Chen's eyes. Humans were like this. When you stood at a different height, the world in your eyes would be different. For example, in the eyes of ordinary warriors, Lingfeng country might be their everything. Qiongqi would probably never leave the territory of Lingfeng country. However, Xiao Chun was different. In Xiao Chen's eyes, Lingfeng country was just a small place. Even the Eastern Sun region was just his starting point. His world was the vast and boundless heavenly Qin continent, the central divine region where heroes were born. Without any hesitation, he rode the green feather eagle and flew directly to King Wu's residence. Several green feather eagles flew into the imperial capital, which naturally attracted the attention of many people. Who are these people? Why are they so arrogant? How dare they ride a flying monster into the imperial capital? Aren't they afraid of being hunted down by the imperial guards? Looking at the green feather eagles in the sky, a young man from an aristocratic family shouted coldly. However, as soon as he finished speaking, the old man at the side hurriedly covered his mouth and said softly, "Don't worry. Young master, don't talk nonsense. These people are not people we can afford to offend. Even the imperial family would not dare to offend them. Look at the monster they are riding. That is a green feather eagle. They are from the East Sword Pavilion." Having lived for a long time, the old man was naturally more knowledgeable. At a glance, he recognized that these people were from the East Sword Pavilion. Hearing the old man's words, the young man was so scared that he started to sweat cold sweat. He no longer dared to speak nonsense. What a joke! If the people from the Eastern Sword Pavilion were to offend them, they would definitely be killed. Their target was very clear. It was the martial imperial manor. At the same time that Xiao Chun and the rest entered the imperial city, the imperial guards immediately reported the news to Mo Yao. Upon hearing that the people from the Eastern Sword Pavilion had arrived, King Wu immediately slumped onto the ground. His face was ashen as he spoke incoherently. It's over. It's really over this time. East Sword Pavilion. The people from the Eastern Sword Pavilion had really come. This time, they were dead for sure. Mo Yao glanced at the martial king who had been scared out of his wit. He had no other choice but to hope that Xiao Chen would be magnanimous. There was no other way. Soon after the martial imperial manor learned that the martial king was in the imperial palace, Xiao Chen and the rest arrived at the imperial palace. Along the way, no one dared to stop them. They directly arrived at the Lingfeng Palace. Here, Xiao Chen finally saw the pale-faced King Wu and the Lingfeng country's emperor, Mo Yao. Greetings, seniors. Greetings, your highness. Facing Xiao Chen and the rest, Mo Yao respectfully greeted. Facing this, Xiao Chen didn't say a word. He directly walked past Mo Yao and arrived before the martial king, looking at him indifferently. Sensing Xiao Chen's actions, Mo Yao's heart instantly sank. He thought to himself, is there still no way to escape this calamity? It was no wonder. As one of the 5 hidden dragons, how could Xiao Chen not have any pride in his heart? Such a person might be very peaceful normally, but once you provoked him, the consequences would be unimaginable. He calmly sized up the martial king. Facing Xiao Chen's gaze, the martial king's legs turned to jelly and he immediately knelt before Xiao Chen. The martial king, who was second only to the emperor of Lingfeng and above tens of thousands of people, was actually kneeling before a young man who was only 19 years old. Of course, even if outsiders were to witness this scene, no one would mock the martial king because Xiao Chen was one of the 5 hidden dragons. Not to mention the martial king, if he really angered Xiao Chen, even Mo Yao would have to kneel, let alone the martial king. Without saying a word, just when everyone thought that Xiao Chen was going to suppress the martial king in a thunderous manner, Xiao Chen finally spoke. According to what you've done, I should have killed you directly. It wouldn't be too much even if I killed your entire family. However, I know that you are Mo Jie's uncle. Today I will give you a chance. Cripple your own cultivation and I will spare your life. Xiao Chen had long known about the relationship between Mo Jie and the martial king. Moreover, along the way, he had also seen the changes in Mo Jie's expression. He knew that Mo Jie was in a dilemma. On one side was his uncle, and on the other was himself. It was indeed difficult for Mo Jie to choose. It was precisely because of Mo Jie's face that Xiao Chen gave the martial king a way out. However, while he could avoid the death penalty, he couldn't escape punishment. Crippling his own cultivation was already Xiao Chen's bottom line. Hearing Xiao Chen's words, Mo Yao, who was behind him, heaved a sigh of relief. Although crippling one's own cultivation was tragic, no matter what, his life was saved. No one dared to speak. Everyone was waiting for the martial king's reply. The entire Lingfeng Palace fell into a short period of silence. Many thanks to your highness hidden dragon for not killing me. After a long while, the martial king took a deep breath and respectfully thanked Xiao Chen. With that said, the martial king crippled his own cultivation in front of everyone. A powerhouse of the heaven realm cultivation base was instantly turned into an ordinary person. This time, it was because of Mo Jie's face. If there is a next time, not only you, but the entire Mo family will be buried with you. Seeing the martial king cripple his own cultivation, Xiao Chen said indifferently. While speaking, he inadvertently glanced at Mo Yao. Obviously, Xiao Chen's words were directed at Mo Yao. Yes, Your Highness Hidden Dragon, don't worry. In the future, such a thing will never happen again. Mo Yao respectfully nodded and replied. After dealing with the Martial King, Xiao Chen's group left on the Green Feather Eagle and headed straight back to the East Sword Pavilion. Xiao Chen wasn't in the mood and didn't have much time to waste on the Mo family. Now that the Martial King had received the punishment he deserved, the Mo family wouldn't dare to lay a finger on the Xiao family anymore. As such, Xiao Chen's goal had been achieved. As for the next step, it was time to prepare for the 100 Spirits graveyard. After all, that was the most important thing for him. Along the way, Mo Jie wanted to say something but hesitated. In the end, he mustered the courage to speak to Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen, thank you, of course. He was referring to Xiao Chen sparing the Martial King's life. Upon hearing his words, Xiao Chen smiled. We are friends. Although the Mo family was involved in this matter, I don't wish for it to affect our relationship. Yes, I know. But don't worry, nothing like this will happen again. I promise. Upon hearing Xiao Chen's words, Mo Jie heaved a sigh of relief. Previously, he was worried that this matter would affect their relationship. But now, it seemed that he was overthinking. Xiao Chen wasn't an indiscriminate person. Collecting, recommending, rewarding. Chapter 57. After settling the matter of the Xiao clan, Xiao Chen believed that no one in the Lingfeng kingdom would dare to make a move against the Xiao clan. As such, Xiao Chen no longer had any worries and could focus on preparing for the 100 Spirits graveyard. On the way back to the East Sword Pavilion, Xiao Chen bowed to the elders and thanked them sincerely. Thank you for your help this time. I will never forget your kindness and will definitely repay you in the future. It's all right. The elders responded to Xiao Chen's gratitude with smiles. With Xiao Chen's current status in the East Sword Pavilion, the elders naturally wouldn't mind such a small matter. It was even an honor for them to be able to help Xiao Chen. After bidding farewell to the elders, the group returned to their respective residences and returned to the outer gate with Mo Jie. Before leaving, Xiao Chen gave Mo Jie some training resources. Naturally, these things were obtained from the Ju Mountain sect. In the end, they returned to the dustless residence alone. Seeing that Xiao Chen was safe and sound, Qin Yao and Qin Luo secretly heaved sighs of relief. After resting for a day in the dustless residence, Xiao Chen was summoned by Cang Xian early the next morning. Seeing that Xiao Chen was safe and sound, Cang Xian asked with a smile. Has everything been resolved? Yes, everything has been resolved, Xiao Chen replied. In that case, you can focus on preparing for the 100 Spirits graveyard. This is the most important thing for you right now, Cang Xian said. The Xiao family's matter had been resolved perfectly. Next, Xiao Chen needed to focus on training. According to Cang Xian, before the 100 Spirits graveyard opened, Chen Ling, Zhao Yun and the other three wouldn't break through to the Yellow Realm. They would suppress their cultivation to the Yellow Realm's complete stage because they wanted to seek a breakthrough in the 100 Spirits graveyard to truly achieve the perfect Xianling martial body. However, being unable to make a breakthrough in their cultivation did not mean that their strength would not increase. From the information Cang Xian had obtained, Chen Ling and the other three had already begun to practice Xian class martial skills. In the entire Dongyang region, only the 5 hidden dragons could practice profound-level martial arts techniques at the Yellow Realm. After all, ordinary warriors of the Yellow Realm did not have the ability to activate profound-level martial arts techniques, let alone practice them. Therefore, during this period of time, you should also start cultivating profound-class martial skills. Here are 2 profound-class inferior-class martial skills. Take them and cultivate them. Before the 100 Spirits graveyard opens, you must master them. After he finished talking about the 100 Spirits graveyard, Cang Xian directly handed 2 profound-class martial skills to Xiao Chen for him to cultivate. The Clear Shadow Steps and the Golden Killing Sword technique were a profound-class martial skill and a profound-class sword technique. Xiao Chen nodded after receiving the 2 profound-class martial skills. Upon seeing this, Song Xian continued. Also, the 5 hidden dragons aren't the only ones participating in the 100 Spirits graveyard. The elite disciples from the outer sect will also head there. 5 months later, there will be a competition in the outer sect. The top 10 will follow you to the 100 Spirits graveyard. Of course, it will be the same for the other 4 great heads. For the next half a year, you can focus on your cultivation. I have already passed down the instructions. You can enter the Burial Sword Valley at any time. In order to allow Xiao Chen to successfully break through to the mysterious Yuan stage in the 100 Spirits graveyard, the Eastern Sword Pavilion fully supported him. They even allowed Xiao Chen to enter the Burial Sword Valley at any time. One must know that this treatment was something that even the 10 core elders of the Eastern Sword Pavilion did not receive. Aside from Song Xian, Song Yun and Song Long, the others had to pay contribution points to enter the Song Xian Valley. However, Xiao Chen did not need to do so. Song Xian personally guided Xiao Chen in his training. After a month, Xiao Chen had already grasped the basics of the clear shadow steps and the golden killing sword technique, and reached the entry stage. Being able to cultivate the 2 profound class inferior class martial skills to the entry stage in a month showed how difficult it was to cultivate profound class martial skills. Basic martial skills could not be compared to them. If it was an ordinary person, let alone a month, they might not even be able to cultivate a profound class martial skill to the entry stage in 3 months. Song Xian could not help but praise Xiao Chen's talent. As expected of one of the 5 great hidden dragons, not only did his cultivation level increase, but his speed in cultivating martial skills also left ordinary people in the dust. Song Xian had already taught Xiao Chen everything that he could teach him. The rest would depend on Xiao Chen's own hard work and talent. I have nothing more to teach you about the clear shadow steps and the golden killing sword technique. The rest will depend on you. How far you can cultivate before the 100 Spirits graveyard opens is completely up to you. Go, your progress will be faster if you cultivate in the Burial Sword Valley. With nothing more to teach Xiao Chen, Song Xian suggested that Xiao Chen cultivate in the Burial Sword Valley by himself. Xiao Chen naturally did not reject Song Xian's suggestion. In a month, Song Xian had already taught him everything about the clear shadow steps and the golden killing sword technique. Xiao Chen bowed to Song Xian and left. He first made a trip back to the dustless residence. After all, he had not returned for a month. He asked Qingyao and Qingluo if anything had happened to them in the past month. After confirming that everything was normal, Xiao Chen then headed to the Burial Sword Valley. The Burial Sword Valley was a famous cultivation paradise in the East Sword Pavilion. It was said that there were millions of swords in the valley. As the saying goes, swords have spirit. It was because so many swords were gathered together that the Burial Sword Valley became a cultivation paradise. It was easier to cultivate swordsmanship in the Burial Sword Valley as compared to the outside world. It could be said that this was the best place to cultivate swordsmanship. However, even though the Burial Sword Valley was great, one would need a high amount of contribution points to enter it. Xiao Chen was the only disciple in the entire East Sword Pavilion who could enter and leave at any time. On the way to the Burial Sword Valley, many disciples would cup their hands and greet Xiao Chen when they saw him. Xiao Chen nodded in response. After 15 minutes, he finally arrived at the entrance of the Burial Sword Valley. Xiao Chen saw 2 core elders sitting cross-legged at the entrance. It was apparent that they were guarding the Burial Sword Valley. It was apparent how important the Burial Sword Valley was to the East Sword Pavilion for 2 core elders who had surpassed the sky stage to guard this place. As if sensing Xiao Chen's arrival, the 2 core elders opened their eyes at the same time and said in a calm voice, "Go in. Before the 100 Spirits graveyard opens, you can enter and leave the Burial Sword Valley as you wish." It was obvious that they had received Song Xian's orders. The 2 core elders did not make things difficult for Xiao Chen. Shao Qin bowed to the two core elders and strode into the burial sword valley. Please add, recommend, reward. Chapter 58. Shao Qin strode into the burial sword valley. As soon as he entered, he saw that the entire burial sword valley was filled with long swords that were stabbed into the ground. This was only the entrance to the burial sword valley. As they walked deeper into the valley, Shao Qin found that there were streaks of faintly discernible sword qi all around them. Unlike ordinary sword qi, the sword qi in the burial sword valley was formed naturally. It was extremely condensed and pure. Although its lethality wasn't great, one could clearly feel its existence. No wonder countless disciples and even elders from the East Sword Pavilion want to enter the burial sword valley to cultivate. Not only is it helpful for practicing sword techniques, it is also helpful for improving sword qi. Shao Qin muttered softly when he sensed the sword qi that enveloped the entire burial sword valley. Only after experiencing it personally could one understand why the burial sword valley was so strong. Millions of swords had gradually gathered sword qi after many years of accumulation. Sensing such sword qi was extremely helpful to any sword cultivator. He went straight to the center of the burial sword valley where the sword qi was the thickest. After taking a deep breath, Shao Qin began to practice the golden kill swordsmanship. Shao Qin only needed half a month to reach the transformation stage for a basic martial technique. As for a profound martial technique, it was Shao Qin's first time practicing it. He didn't know how long it would take for him to reach the transformation stage. However, with the help of the burial sword valley, Shao Qin was confident that he could break through to the transformation stage for the golden kill swordsmanship before the 100 Spirits graveyard opened. Moreover, Shao Qin's goal wasn't just to improve his martial technique, but also his sword qi. His sword qi had already reached the greater mastery stage. If he could break through to the small perfection stage before the 100 Spirits graveyard opened, his combat strength would be enhanced. He had two goals. First, he had to reach the transformation stage for the golden kill swordsmanship and clear shadow step. Secondly, he had to break through to the great perfection stage for his sword qi. They started their tough training in the Burial Sword Mountain Range. At the same time, in the Blood Demon Hall, Fire Cloud Sect, Myriad Immortal House and Delight Mountain Prefecture, Chun Ling, Zhao Yun, Lin Xing and Mu Qing were all preparing for the 100 Spirits graveyard. The 5 hidden dragons all secluded themselves to practice. Several months had passed, and there was no news of the 5 hidden dragons in the outside world. However, many people knew that the 5 hidden dragons were probably practicing wholeheartedly. The 100 Spirits graveyard was the last barrier for them to reach the Yellow Realm. It was believed that after the 100 Spirits graveyard ended, the 5 hidden dragons would probably break through to the Mystic Aeon Realm and enter the inner sect. The war between the hidden dragons would then spread from the outer sect to the inner sect. After several months of closed-door cultivation, Shao Qin didn't leave the Burial Sword Mountain Range. During the day, Shao Qin cultivated his martial skills, and at night, Shao Qin comprehended the sword energy in the Burial Sword Valley. Because of this kind of tough training, after a few months, the clear shadow steps and golden kill swordsmanship had already reached the perfection realm. They were only one step away from breaking through to the transformative realm. In less than 5 months, Shao Qin had already cultivated 2 lower profound level martial skills to the perfection realm. If this news were to spread, it would probably shock many people. Profound level martial skills weren't basic martial skills, and the difficulty of cultivating them was definitely much higher than basic martial skills. Shao Qin was no longer worried about the cultivation of the clear shadow steps and golden kill swordsmanship. He was confident that before the 100 Spirits graveyard began, he would definitely be able to break through to the transformative realm. In the following time, Shao Qin planned to focus on breaking through to the sword qi. His sword qi was already stuck at the limit of the advanced realm. If he wanted to break through to the small perfection realm, he was still lacking something. Was it because he didn't have enough comprehension, or some other reason? Xiao Chen wasn't sure, but he felt that there was a layer of something that was blocking him. As long as he could break through this bottleneck, his sword qi would definitely enter the small perfection realm. Closing his eyes and sitting cross-legged, he carefully comprehended the sword qi in the burial sword valley. Xiao Chen had been sitting cross-legged like this for 3 days and 3 nights. Perhaps it was because Xiao Chen was constantly comprehending, but the sword qi in the burial sword valley seemed to be attracted by something and gradually started to revolve around Xiao Chen. More and more invisible sword qi gathered around Xiao Chen. On the 7th day, a tornado formed by countless sword qi appeared around Xiao Chen. In the eye of the tornado was Xiao Chen, who was sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed. The wind blew violently, and the sword qi was everywhere. All the sword qi in the burial sword valley had gathered around Xiao Chen. After an unknown amount of time had passed, the countless swords in the burial sword valley suddenly began to emit sword cries. The voice was not loud, but it spread throughout the entire eastern sword pavilion. The 2 core elders in charge of guarding the burial sword valley suddenly opened their eyes when they heard the sword hum. They looked into the burial sword valley at the same time. One of them shook his head and laughed bitterly. "This little fella has caused such a huge commotion again. Has the sword qi broken through?" The other core elder asked. "Sigh, he's so troublesome." The 2 of them spoke one after another, seemingly talking to themselves. After they spoke, the 2 core elders acted at the same time. A huge restriction directly covered the burial sword valley, immediately isolating the sound of the sword cries. They could tell that Xiao Chen's sword qi had broken through at a glance. As expected of a core elder, his cultivation was far from what an ordinary elder could compare to. There were nearly 100 ordinary elders in the East Sword Pavilion, but only 10 core elders. In order to become a core elder, the first requirement was that one's cultivation had to surpass the celestial realm. As everyone knew, the path of martial arts started from the Foundation Establishment realm, followed by the Channel Opening realm, Yellow realm, Mysterious Aeon realm, Earth Mirror realm, and Celestial realm. For ordinary people, reaching the Celestial realm was the limit. Those who surpassed the Celestial realm were called the Tao Querying realm, which was the realm that the 10 core elders of the East Sword Pavilion were in. The Tao Querying realm was an existence that had dug out their own potential to the extreme and began to pursue the path of martial arts. It was completely different from the cultivation of those below the Celestial realm. The things they pursued were more mysterious, profound, and at the same time, more powerful. In order to completely isolate Xiao Chen from the outside world, an unbelievable scene was playing out in the Burial Sword Valley. Millions of long swords rose into the air and surrounded Xiao Chen as if they were jumping for joy. It was also because of these long swords that 3 days passed. On the 4th day, everything returned to normal. At this time, Xiao Chen slowly opened his eyes. He exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and revealed a faint smile on his face. "I've finally broken through. Sword Qi at the perfection stage. Please collect, recommend, reward." Chapter 59. He had finally made a breakthrough. There was a smile on his face. There were still a few days before the final sprint. As long as he could break through the clear shadow steps and the golden killing sword technique to the perfection of martial arts, his seclusion would be considered a success. Just as Xiao Chen was about to make his final sprint, the Eastern Sword Pavilion Outer Sect also began the competition for the spots to enter the 100 Spirits Graveyard. It was a challenge tournament. There were a total of 10 arenas, and the top 10 Outer Sect elite disciples would act as the ringmasters. Any Outer Sect disciple would have a chance to challenge them. As long as they won, they would become the new ringmaster. The competition would last for 5 days. After 5 days, those who remained in the 10 arenas would be the elite disciples who would be following Xiao Chen to the 100 Spirits Graveyard. As a hidden dragon, Xiao Chen naturally did not need to participate. To put it bluntly, The 10 elite disciples were entering the 100 spirits graveyard to search for opportunities that belonged to them. On the other hand, they were helping Shao Chun. After all, the competition between the 5 hidden dragons was extremely fierce in the 100 spirits graveyard. Because of the appearance of the 5 hidden dragons, the 100 spirits graveyard had changed. There was no doubt that the 100 spirits graveyard was the stage for the 5 hidden dragons. As for the others, they could only pick up the scraps. 5 days passed in the blink of an eye. The final 10 spots were not unexpected. Veteran outer sect elite disciples such as Wang Hu, Zhao Kuo and Cheng Hai all received a spot. After the spots were confirmed, Song Xian announced that they would depart for the 100 spirits graveyard in 3 days. It was the last 3 days. On the last day before the departure date, Shao Chun finally came out of seclusion. After close to half a year of seclusion, Shao Chun's progress was undoubtedly huge. His cultivation had completely stabilized at the Yellow Realm's completion. His sword aura had also broken through to the small completion. Moreover, his 2 lower profound level martial arts techniques, the clear shadow steps and the golden killing sword technique, had also been practiced to the perfection of martial arts. His overall strength had been greatly improved. Although Shao Chun was still at the Yellow Realm, if he were to encounter a warrior at the beginning of the mysterious Yuan realm like the poisonous Dragon Prince, it would not be an exaggeration to say that Shao Chun would be able to kill him within 3 moves. After slowly walking out of the Burial Sword Valley, Shao Chun bowed to the 2 core elders before walking towards the dustless residence. After cultivating bitterly for close to half a year, Shao Chun slept comfortably that night. Early the next morning, Shao Chun bid farewell to Qing Yao and Qing Luo and went to the outer court's main plaza. Today was the day they set off for the 100 spirits graveyard. All the outer disciples were gathered in the main square of the outer sect. As soon as they saw Shao Chun, they greeted respectfully. "Greetings, senior brother Shao." Everyone took the initiative to open up a path for Shao Chun. He stepped onto the high platform in front of the main square and looked down at Wang Hu and the other 8 people in front of him. These 10 people were the ones who were going to enter the 100 spirits graveyard with him. Wang Hu's gaze swept across the 10 people in succession. Facing Shao Chun's gaze, Wang Hu unconsciously lowered his head. Originally, he still hated Shao Chun, but now Wang Hu had completely discarded this thought. Shao Chun was a hidden dragon, while he was just an outer elite disciple with some talent. His previous jealousy had completely disappeared. That's how people are. When you're just a little bit stronger than them, they'll be jealous of you and even hate you. However, when you surpass them by too much and reach a point where they can only look up to you, they won't be jealous of you anymore. Without paying attention to Wang Hu, Shao Chun retracted his gaze and stood calmly on the spot, waiting for the arrival of Song Xian and the others. Without waiting for long, Song Xian and a group of outer elders appeared. They nodded at Shao Chun with a benevolent expression. Then, Song Xian looked at Wang Hu and the other 8 people and said, "The 100 Spirits Graveyard is a great opportunity that belongs to all of you. Once you enter, you must seize any opportunity. However, before that, I need to remind all of you that the competition for the 100 Spirits Graveyard has changed because of the appearance of the 5 hidden dragons. In the past, when the 100 Spirits Graveyard opened, everyone could compete for their own opportunity. However, it is different this time. Any one of the 5 hidden dragons has the ability to kill all of you in seconds. Therefore, when you enter the 100 Spirits Graveyard, you must listen to Shao Chun's command. You must understand that you must never treat the 5 hidden dragons as warriors of the Yellow Realm. You don't even have the ability to fight back against them. Don't lose your life before you get the opportunity." The appearance of the 5 hidden dragons had completely changed the situation of the younger generation in the Dongyang region. It was also because of this that the competition for the 100 Spirits Graveyard was different from the past. Think about it. Originally, it was a group of sheep competing, but suddenly, there were 5 wild dragons among the sheep. What would the result be? It was very simple. All the sheep would be slaughtered wantonly, and in the end, only the 5 wild dragons would be left to compete. This was the current situation. Ordinary outer disciples were like sheep in front of the 5 hidden dragons. Originally, anyone could fight for this opportunity, but because of the existence of the 5 hidden dragons, it became impossible. In front of the 5 hidden dragons, outer disciples were no different from chickens and pottery dogs, unable to withstand a single blow. Song Xian's words were unpleasant, but it was the truth. No one refuted it. Everyone could clearly see that the 100 Spirits graveyard this time was different from the past. After giving instructions to everyone, Song Xian handed a leather map to Xiao Chen and said softly, "This is the map of the 100 Spirits graveyard. This is the map of the 100 Spirits graveyard. However, it only shows the outer regions. As no one has been able to enter the core region, there is no information about it. If you follow the directions on the map in the outer regions, you will not encounter too much danger. However, once you enter the core region, you can only rely on yourself." The 100 Spirits graveyard had been opened many times. Through the efforts of generations of the 5 great leaders, the situation in the outer area of the 100 Spirits graveyard was basically grasped. Of course, this was only limited to the outer area. If you entered the core area, you could only move forward by yourself. After keeping the map, Song Xian ordered everyone to step on the green-feathered eagle. Accompanied by the eagle's cry, a group of people soared into the sky and quickly disappeared into the horizon. With Song Xian leading the group, there were 2 core elders and 10 ordinary elders. In addition, there were 11 disciples including Xiao Chen. Looking at the back of the green-feathered eagle, many of the outer disciples in the main square were filled with anticipation. They all knew that the final collision of the 5 hidden dragons in the Yellow Realm was coming. This time, who would be the final winner? It was impossible to judge at the moment, but one thing was certain. It would definitely be a fierce battle. Please collect recommend reward. Chapter 60. The 100 Spirits graveyard was located in the north of Dongyang region. It was in a deep and boundless rainforest. The rainforest was known as the burial ground. The entrance to the 100 Spirits graveyard was located in the center of the burial grounds. The entrance to the 100 Spirits graveyard was protected by a powerful prohibition all year round. It would only disappear at certain times. Because of this, the 5 great leaders of Dongyang region could send their disciples in. However, due to the restriction of the 100 Spirits graveyard, only warriors of the Yellow Realm could enter. Over time, it became a place of opportunity for the outer disciples of the 5 great leaders. The distance from the East Sword Pavilion to the burial grounds was extremely far. Even if they rode on a green-feathered eagle, it would still take 7 days. Along the way, Xiao Chen shared a green eagle with Wang Hu and the others. Along the way, Xiao Chen passed the map to everyone so that they could memorize the contents of the map. That way, they would know how to avoid dangerous places in the 100 Spirits graveyard. As warriors, their memories were naturally very strong. Remembering the contents of a map was not a difficult task for them. In just over 2 hours, everyone had firmly memorized the route on the map in their mind. After putting away the map, everyone closed their eyes to rest. They were not practicing, but adjusting their bodies to prepare for the fierce battle that was about to unfold. Before arriving at the 100 Spirits graveyard, everyone had already predicted how fierce the battle would be. However, the reality was more serious than they had imagined. This was because behind the scenes, the true big shots of the heavenly Qin continent had gathered together to start the 100 Spirits graveyard battle. There were 5 regions in the Tianqian continent. They were Dongyang region, West Sea Domain, Beiwei region, Nanfeng region, and the Central Divine Dominion. The Eastern Sun region, the Western Sea Domain, the Northern Peak region, and the Southern Wind region were about the same in terms of surface area. They each took up about 10% of the heavenly Qin continent's surface area. The Middle Earth region, on the other hand, was vast and boundless. Its surface area was larger than the 4 regions of the Eastern Sun region combined. It took up 60% of the heavenly Chun continent's surface area. Not only was the central divine realm huge, but the spiritual energy in the central divine realm was also incomparable to that of the other 4 divine realms. Because of all these unique advantages, the number of experts in the central divine realm far exceeded the total number of experts in the other 4 divine realms. The true overlords of the heavenly Chun continent had also established their sects in the central divine realm. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that the central Earth divine realm controlled everything in the heavenly Chun continent. While the 5 leaders of the Eastern Sun region were rushing towards the 100 Spirits graveyard, 7 illusory figures were seated in a circle in a magnificent shrines in the central divine continent. These 7 figures were not their true bodies, but merely the embodiment of a strand of divine sense. To be able to conjure a divine sense avatar, the cultivation of these 7 individuals could be said to have reached an unfathomable level. At the very least, even Song Xian could only look up to them. The identities of these 7 people were not simple. They were the sect masters of the overlords of the heavenly Chun continent. In the entire heavenly Chun continent there were 7 overlords. These 7 overlords ruled the entire heavenly Chun continent. At this moment, the sect masters of the 7 overlords were gathered together. It was obvious that the matter they were discussing was not a small matter. The 100 Spirits graveyard has already opened. Are we really going to do this? One of them spoke first with a somewhat hoarse voice. The Golden Age has arrived. Not only our central Earth divine realm, but the other 4 regions also have heaven's pride. The 5 dragons of the Eastern Sun region, the 4 sovereigns of the West Sea region, the 6 sovereigns of the Northern Mountain region, and the 3 kings of the Southern Wind region. These people are all rare monsters. Since there is such an opportunity, we naturally have to let them meet each other. Haha, another person said. Yes, there will be many heaven's prides in this golden age. However, even heaven's prides and monsters will be distinguished one day. The heavenly Chun Grand Banquet is already in the preparation stage. It's fine to let them meet each other in advance. If that's the case, let's do it. Connect the 400 spirits graveyards and let those little fellows meet each other first. The 7 leaders spoke one after another. What they were talking about was naturally the 100 spirits graveyard. All along, no one in the Eastern Sun region knew that there was actually more than 100 spirits graveyard. In the Eastern Sun region, the West Sea region, the Northern Mountain region, and the Southern Wind region, there was 100 spirits graveyard each. Previously, the 400 spirits graveyards had always been separated. However, due to the arrival of the Golden Age, the 7 leaders were prepared to use their great abilities to forcefully connect the 400 spirits graveyards, allowing the people from the 4 regions to meet each other. In the Golden Age, there were peerless heaven's prides like the 5 great hidden dragons in the 4 regions. It was hard to imagine what kind of sparks would be created if they were to meet each other. Originally, everyone thought that the battle for the 100 spirits graveyard was intense enough. However, no one knew that under the manipulation of the leaders behind the scenes, the intensity of the competition would probably reach a whole new level. It was no longer a competition between one region, but a competition between the 4 regions. The Eastern Sun region had the 5 great hidden dragons, the West Sea region had the 4 great kings, the Northern Mountain region had the 6 great hidden dragons, and the Southern Wind region had the 3 great kings. These people were truly ruthless people who stood above all the younger generation in their respective regions. It was hard to imagine what would happen if they were to meet each other in the 100 Spirits graveyard. Then, should we let those little fellows from the Central Divine region in? They have already taken the initiative to ask for it many times. After coming to a decision, one of the leaders asked. They were prepared to let the heavens' prides from the 4 regions clash head-on. Apart from the 4 regions, the Central Divine region also had their own heavens' prides. Moreover, after hearing the decision of the leaders, the Heavens Prides from the central divine region took the initiative to enter the 100 Spirits' graveyard. Upon hearing the leaders' words, the other 6 leaders pondered for a moment before shaking their heads and smiling bitterly. Forget it. Letting those little fellows in will just be a waste of time. I believe everyone has a preliminary understanding of the strength of those little fellows from the 4 regions. If we let those little fellows in our hands in, I'm afraid, they didn't intend to let the Heavens Prides from the central divine region enter. Judging from the leader's tone, the Heavens Prides from the central divine region were much stronger than Xiao Chen's group. If they were to let them in, it wouldn't be much fun. They would only let the Heavens Prides from the 4 regions meet. As for the central divine region, it wasn't included. After coming to a decision, the 7 leaders took action at the same time and began to forcefully link the 400 spirits' graveyards together. Xiao Chen's group didn't know what the leaders of the central divine region were planning. After 7 days of hurrying, they finally arrived at the burial ground. From afar, they saw a gloomy rainforest that covered the land as far as the eye could see. Seeking collection, recommendation, reward. Chapter 61. Riding the green-feathered eagle, Song Xian directly rushed into the burial grounds and flew towards the center. Along the way, Song Xian released his pressure to warn the demonic beasts in the burial ground. Therefore, they did not encounter any attacks along the way. They smoothly arrived at the entrance of the 100 Spirits' graveyard. At this moment, the other 4 great leaders had already arrived and were only waiting for the people from the East Sword Pavilion. From afar, Xiao Chun could see that there were over 10,000 people gathered around the entrance of the 100 Spirits' graveyard. These people were experts from the various clans and sects in the Eastern Sun region. Although they did not have the qualifications to enter the 100 Spirits' graveyard, they wanted to personally witness the battle between the 5 hidden dragons. Following the appearance of the green-feathered eagle, many people began to murmur. The East Sword Pavilion is here. The people from the East Sword Pavilion had finally arrived. As such, the 5 great leaders were all present. Leaping down from the eagle's back, Xiao Chun appeared with a group of East Sword Pavilion disciples. Everyone's eyes were locked onto Xiao Chun. Heavenly Blade Chun Ling, Viper Mu Qing, Dominating Spear Lin Xing, Heavenly Flame Zhao Weiyun, Demonic Sword Xiao Chun. The 5 hidden dragons are all here. They looked at Xiao Chen and whispered. These people were here to witness the grand occasion of the 5 hidden dragons gathering together. Facing the crowd's gazes, Xiao Chen's expression was calm. He looked at Chun Ling and smiled at him, before nodding to Zhao Weiyun and Lin Xing. As for Mu Qing, she was directly ignored by Xiao Chen. After a simple greeting, Song Xian and the other elders of the 5 great leaders also prepared to open the entrance of the 100 Spirits' graveyard after a short discussion. The restriction at the entrance of the 100 Spirits' graveyard was already very weak. Song Xian and the others were more than enough to tear open a hole and send everyone in. The 100 Spirits' graveyard will only be open for 3 months. After 3 months you will be forcefully expelled. Remember what I said. Once you enter, Xiao Qin will be in charge. Song Xian reminded Wang Hu and the others before taking action. This time, the 100 Spirits' graveyard was different from the past. Hearing Song Xian's words, everyone nodded in unison. Then, the group of experts took action at the same time. Song Xian and the other 4 elders' pressure immediately shrouded the entire burial grounds. The core elders of the 5 magnates were all at the Tao Querying Realm, while Song Xian's cultivation had already surpassed the Tao Querying Realm and had reached the Tao Validation Realm. His strength was simply unimaginable. Just a wisp of his aura alone was enough to make one unable to resist. The 5 great leaders move, they could not hold the entrance to the Spirit's graveyard. Soon, the 5s and the others elders say, "Go in quickly." Song Xian urged everyone to enter the 100 Spirits' graveyard as soon as possible. Hearing this, the disciples led by the 5 great hidden dragons moved and rushed into the 100 spirits' graveyard. Not long after, the 55 disciples of the 5 great leaders rushed into the 100 spirits' graveyard. Then, the entrance was sealed once again. It was an indescribable feeling. After rushing into the 100 spirits' graveyard, Xiao Chen's vision turned dark, as if he had entered a space tunnel. After an unknown period of time, Xiao Chen had already entered the 100 spirits' graveyard. Could this 100 spirits' graveyard be formed by a paradise treasure? After sizing up his surroundings, he realized that it wasn't any different from the outside world. It was still the same dark rainforest. The only difference was the sky. The sky of the 100 spirits' graveyard seemed to have been corroded by darkness, giving off an eerie and terrifying feeling. While observing the surroundings, he guessed that the 100 spirits' graveyard was formed by a paradise treasure. The Grotto Heaven treasure was something that only existed in legends. Xiao Chun had only read about it in ancient books. It was said that the Grotto Heaven treasure was capable of forming a space of its own, which was equivalent to a top-notch storage ring. However, compared to a storage ring, the space of the Grotto Heaven treasure was much, much larger. Furthermore, the Grotto Heaven treasure could not only store inanimate objects, but could also store living things, including humans. Just like Xiao Chen, Zhao Weiyun and the other 3 were also sizing up their surroundings. After a long while, when everyone gradually regained their senses, with Xiao Chen and the other 4 taking the lead, the disciples of the 5 great leaders were quickly divided into 5 camps. They were divided into 5 corners and looked at each other with fear in their eyes. In the 100 spirits' graveyard, everyone was competing against each other. Almost at the same time, Xiao Chen and the other 4 spoke to the disciples behind them in an extremely soft voice. "Listen to my command later. Retreat immediately and leave this place. I will look for you guys later." Almost all of them said the same thing. After hearing Xiao Chen and the other 4's reminder, all of the disciples nodded slightly in silence. Then, Zhao Weiyun took the lead to speak. "We've just entered the 100 spirits' graveyard. There's no need to fight to the death, right?" "There's nothing wrong with fighting first," Lin Xing said. After hearing Zhao Weiyun's words, Lin Xing opened his mouth and said. Without waiting for the others to reply, Lin Xing directly took out his mysterious weapon and immediately attacked Zhao Weiyun. They had just entered the 100 spirits' graveyard and a battle was about to break out between the 5 hidden dragons. Along with Lin Xing's attack, Xiao Chun, Mu Qing, and Chun Ling didn't stay idle either. The 5 of them shouted one after another, "Let's go!" Then, a chaotic battle broke out. They gestured for the disciples to leave first. They couldn't intervene in the battle between the 5 hidden dragons. If they were to stay here, they might be killed by the 5 hidden dragons if they weren't careful. The gains wouldn't make up for the losses. Everyone present was in a competitive relationship. One less person meant one less competitor. The 5 hidden dragons were aware of this point, which was why they didn't hesitate to ask their disciples to leave. The disciples from the 5 factions did not hesitate after hearing the words of the 5 people. They immediately turned around and fled. Seeing this, Mu Qing, who was in the midst of the chaotic battle, directly locked her target on the disciples of the Eastern Sword Pavilion. The silver-white long whip in her hand was suddenly swung out and immediately wrapped around the neck of a Eastern Sword Pavilion disciple. After which, everyone saw a head fly into the air, and that Eastern Sword Pavilion disciple died on the spot. Perhaps due to the grudge between her and Xiao Chen, Mu Qing's target was the East Sword Pavilion. Seeing this, Xiao Chen's eyes glinted with murderous intent. "Mu Qing, if you want to play, I'll play with you. Let's see if my East Sword Pavilion's disciples or your myriad Immortal Tower's disciples die first." As he spoke, Xiao Chen slashed out with his sword. Sword chi gushed out like a wild dragon as it charged towards a myriad Immortal Tower's disciple. The myriad Immortal Tower's disciple didn't even have time to react as he was sliced into 2 by the sword chi. He couldn't be more dead. Please collect recommend reward. Chapter 62. Mu Qing killed a disciple from the Eastern Sword Pavilion. In the blink of an eye, Xiao Chen also killed a disciple from the Myriad Immortal Tower. At the same time, Zhao Weiyun, Lin Xing and Chen Ling each killed a disciple from the other side. In less than 15 minutes after entering the 100 Spirits graveyard, each of the 5 great leaders lost a disciple. One must know that the disciples who entered the 100 Spirits graveyard this time weren't ordinary disciples. Every one of them was an elite outer sect disciple. Even so, they didn't have the slightest ability to retaliate in front of the 5 hidden dragons. Looking at the 5 corpses in front of them, the disciples understood the intentions of Xiao Chen and the other 4. They started a fight the moment they entered the 100 Spirits graveyard. Their goal wasn't to kill their opponents, but to kill the elite disciples. All of them had the same thought in mind. That was why Xiao Chen and the other 4 had all told their disciples to retreat right away before they made their move. They knew that staying behind meant certain death. They weren't on the same level at all. At this moment, none of the disciples dared to stay any longer. They immediately ran away. Before entering the 100 Spirits graveyard, Song Xian and the other great leaders had warned them that the battle for the 100 Spirits graveyard would be extremely intense. With the 5 hidden dragons present, elite disciples like them were powerless to change anything. They originally thought that those words were a little exaggerated, but now it seemed that they weren't exaggerating at all. In fact, they were even a little conservative. In front of the 5 hidden dragons, they didn't have any leeway to compete. To put it bluntly, with the 5 hidden dragons present, elite disciples like them were only spectators in the battle for the 100 Spirits graveyard. They had no way of participating. They fled in panic. However, during this period, Xiao Chen and the other 4 didn't stop. In the end, the disciples only managed to escape after losing 2 disciples each. Each of them had lost 2 elite disciples as soon as they entered the place. Xiao Chen and the other 4 only stopped attacking after everyone else had run out of sight. The elite disciples from each side had successfully escaped, so there was no objection to continuing the fight. Now wasn't the time to decide the final victor. Therefore, Xiao Chen and the other 4 had a tacit understanding to stop fighting. "Let's go. We'll decide the victor next time," Lin Xing said as he looked at the 4 of them. Then, he turned around and chased after the Leshan Prefecture disciple. Lin Xing left, followed by Zhao Weiyun and Mu Qing. However, before they left, Mu Qing said coldly to Xiao Chen, "Xiao Chen, I haven't forgotten about what happened in Lingshan County City." "Anytime," Xiao Chen replied indifferently after hearing Mu Qing's words. The 3 of them left, leaving behind only Chen Ling and Xiao Chen. They looked at each other and smiled before Xiao Chen said, "I'm leaving as well." "Yes." After hearing Xiao Chen's words, Chen Ling nodded and replied. Then, the 2 of them went their separate ways and chased after their own disciples. After a fierce battle, the 5 hidden dragons each killed 2 of their opponents' elite disciples. 10 of them were eliminated and their corpses were forcefully sent out of the 100 Spirits graveyard. Once one died in the 100 Spirits graveyard, their corpses would be sent out of the 100 Spirits graveyard. At this moment, at the entrance of the 100 Spirits graveyard, Song Xian and the rest were calm as they looked at the corpses of the elite disciples. However, the surrounding crowd was horrified. What's going on? It had only been 15 minutes since they entered the 100 Spirits graveyard, and 10 people had already fallen. This was too exaggerated. One must know that this had never happened in any of the previous openings of the 100 Spirits graveyard. Moreover, although the 100 Spirits graveyard was dangerous, the total number of casualties among the 5 overlords would rarely exceed 10. But this time, 10 people had fallen in just 15 minutes. This was beyond everyone's expectations. Many of the experts from the various families and sects had joined the 5 overlords when they were young, so they knew about the 100 Spirits graveyard. However, this was the first time in history that such casualties had occurred. Moreover, it had only been 15 minutes. Seems like it's the work of those 5 little fellas. The Fire Cloud Sex Overlord said as he swept a glance at the 10 corpses on the ground. Yes, it should be, the Leshan Prefecture's Overlord said. Those little fellas are really impatient. They just entered the 100 Spirits graveyard and they already wanted to wipe out their opponents. Sigh. The Blood Devil Hall's Overlord said. With the eyesight of these old men, it wasn't difficult for them to see that the 10 people had died in the hands of the 5 hidden dragons. Regarding this, they didn't say much and didn't have the intention to make a fuss about it. After all, this was already within their expectations. This time, the 100 Spirits graveyard was the stage for the 5 hidden dragons. The outside world was in an uproar because of the death of the 10 elite disciples. In the 100 Spirits graveyard, Shao Chun didn't encounter the 8 surviving disciples of the East Sword Pavilion. He didn't know where they had run off to, so he had no choice but to search for them slowly. However, there was no need to worry. As long as they didn't encounter Mu Qing's group of 4, they shouldn't be in too much danger. For the time being, Shao Chun hadn't found the disciples of the East Sword Pavilion. However, based on the traces they left behind, Shao Chun determined the direction in which they escaped. As long as he continued searching in that direction, he would be able to find them. Shao Chun wasn't in a hurry. He took in a deep breath. Up until now, he finally had the chance to properly feel the spiritual energy in the 100 Spirits graveyard. It was indeed rich. No wonder the 100 Spirits graveyard was known as the best place to break through to the mystic realm. Moreover, not only was the spiritual energy in the 100 Spirits graveyard rich, but it also contained a trace of unknown power. This power was very obscure, but it was extremely beneficial for a warrior's cultivation, especially when one formed the mystic spirit martial body. Of course, the most precious and attractive thing in the 100 Spirits graveyard was the mystic spirit. However, it wasn't easy to find the mystic spirit. Previously, Shao Chun had never seen what a mystic spirit was. However, from the records of the East Sword Pavilion, he understood a little about it. It was rumored that the 100 Spirits graveyard was the place where an ancient almighty had fallen. After this ancient almighty had fallen, the energy within his body leaked out and gradually fused with the surrounding spiritual energy of heaven and earth, forming a mysterious spirit. The mystic spirit didn't have any intelligence. Its shape was similar to what mortals would call a ghost. It possessed a certain degree of offensive power. The only way to capture a mystic spirit was to use one's own spiritual energy to refine it into a mystic spirit bead. This way, one could directly consume it and use the power of the mystic spirit to break through to the mystic spirit martial body. There are very few mystic spirits in the outer region. After so many years, they have basically all been captured. If I want to find a sufficient number of mystic spirits, I have to head to the core area. I believe that Chunling and the other 3 will definitely head to the core area. Therefore, I can't stay in the outer region for long. I have to find Wang Hu and the rest first. Then, I will head to the core area to find the mystic spirit, he thought to himself. Please collect recommend reward. Chapter 63. Shao Chun quickly made up his mind. His goal for entering the 100 Spirits graveyard this time was very clear, and that was to collect enough Xian spirits within 3 months to allow him to break through to the mystic realm. Now that he had a goal, it was obviously impossible to obtain enough Xian spirits in the outer region. One had to know that it took a long time for a Xian spirit to form. After so many years, the Xian spirits in the outer region were almost extinct. Therefore, Shao Chun could only head to the core region. Although the core region was much more dangerous than the outer region, that was all he could do. Of course, Shao Chun did not plan to bring Wang Hu and the rest along as they would only be a burden. Moreover, if he encountered Mu Qing and the rest along the way, he would not have the extra energy to protect them. Therefore, it was better to let them search for opportunities in the outer region. However, before heading to the core region, Shao Chun still had to find them first. After confirming their safety, he could leave with peace of mind. After all, they were all disciples of the East Sword Pavilion. Xiao Chen could not completely ignore their lives. Following the memories in his mind, Xiao Chen searched for Wang Hu and the rest. As he walked, he frowned slightly. Something was wrong. Why was the route different from the map? This should not be the case. One had to know that the map was drawn by generations of disciples of the East Sword Pavilion based on their memories. After so many years of improvement, there should not be any mistakes in the outer region. However, in just a few thousand meters there were already hundreds of mistakes. Xiao Chen was a little confused. It was at this moment that he heard the sound of fighting coming from not far away. Xiao Chen was sharp enough to catch Wang Hu's voice amidst the noise of fighting. He heard Wang Hu yelling angrily at this time. "Who are you? Why are you in the 100 Spirits graveyard?" The sound was very loud. Xiao Chen followed the source of the sound and soon saw two groups of people fighting fiercely at the moment. Wang Hu and the other 8 of them were fighting against more than a dozen strangers on the other side. Both sides were engaged in a fierce battle. Xiao Chen's eyes locked onto a young man wearing a self-colored robe. The young man was about the same age as Xiao Chen, yet he was extremely powerful. A disciple of the East Sword Pavilion could not even withstand a single attack from the young man. The young man's finger pierced right through the forehead, killing the disciple right there and then. They were all in the completion of the Yellow Realm, but the purple-robed young man's combat power completely overpowered Wang Hu and the rest. Xiao Chen felt a dangerous aura from this person that was not weaker than Zhao Yun and Mu Qing. Xiao Chen's intuition told him that the purple-robed young man was ridiculously powerful. He was no weaker than the 5 hidden dragons. However, he did not know how such a powerful person was not famous in the Dongyang domain. Was strange. He was very confused, but the situation was urgent and he had no time to think about it. If he did not take action, Wang Hu and the rest would be directly killed by the purple-robed young man. He moved his body and instantly performed the clear shadow step. The distance of thousands of meters was covered in the blink of an eye. He turned into a black shadow and flashed by. Just as the purple-robed young man was about to kill Wang Hu, a sword breath suddenly streaked across the sky. Feeling the appearance of the sword breath, the purple-robed young man frowned. He turned around and suddenly punched. The iron fist and the sword breath collided fiercely and cancelled each other out. No one had the upper hand. At the same time, Xiao Chen took this opportunity to appear in front of Wang Hu. He asked with his back to Wang Hu, "How are you? Are you okay?" "I won't die. Be careful, this guy is very strong." Hearing Xiao Chen's words, Wang Hu, who had just escaped death, nodded and replied. In the end, he deliberately reminded Xiao Chen to be careful. Regardless of the grudge between the two of them, they were now both disciples of the East Sword Pavilion and should stand together against the common enemy. Furthermore, Xiao Chen had saved Wang Hu's life, so he owed Xiao Chen a life. Hearing Wang Hu's answer, Xiao Chen replied, "Leave this to me. You go and help the others." The purple-robed young man was not someone Wang Hu and the rest could deal with. This person was already a peerless genius who had reached the hidden dragon level. Only Xiao Chen was qualified to fight with him. He signaled Wang Hu to retreat. Hearing this, Wang Hu was tactful. He knew that he was not a match for the purple-robed young man. He immediately rushed to the others and fought with him. After protecting Wang Hu, Xiao Chen looked at the purple-robed young man. At the same time, the purple-robed young man's gaze also fell on Xiao Chen. A hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. The two of them looked at each other. However, at this moment, a sword-wielding disciple following the purple-robed young man recklessly rushed towards Xiao Chen. Sensing this person's action, the purple-robed young man immediately shouted, "Retreat, you are not him." This person was simply courting death. Xiao Chen saw that the purple-robed young man was not ordinary. Similarly, the purple-robed young man naturally saw that Xiao Chen was not ordinary. This was a peerless genius who was at the same level as him. If they were not on the same level, going up against him was simply courting death. He wanted to ask this person to retreat quickly. However, before the purple-robed young man could speak, the green cloud sword in Xiao Chen's hand flashed. The green sword light instantly pierced through this person's throat. This person died on the spot. Like the purple-robed young man, Xiao Chen also used only one move to end this person's life. Seeing this, the purple-robed young man frowned and said, "Who are you? How dare you kill a disciple of my heavenly Thunder Hall? You claim to be a disciple of the heavenly Thunder Hall." Hearing this, Xiao Chen was even more confused. Heavenly Thunder Hall? I have never heard of a force called the Heavenly Thunder Hall in the entire Eastern Sun region. To be able to nurture a hidden dragon, the Heavenly Thunder Hall shouldn't be a nameless force. However, why have I never heard of it before? Both of them did not know each other. However, neither of them knew that it was not only them. At this moment, all over the 100 Spirits graveyard, Xiao Chen's situation could be found everywhere. Chun Ling, Zhao Weiyun, Mu Qing, and Lin Xing. The four of them had also encountered a group of strangers. At the same time, the person leading the group was not any weaker than them. He was also a peerless genius with the potential of a hidden dragon. The peerless geniuses met one after another in the 100 Spirits graveyard. Battles between the geniuses broke out one after another. As for the ordinary disciples who entered the 100 Spirits graveyard with these geniuses, they were in a miserable state. They were like ducks on the chopping board. They were no match for these geniuses at all. Ordinary disciples were killed one after another, and their corpses were sent out. In an instant, the 100 Spirits graveyard became the battlefield of the numerous geniuses. Furthermore, each of these geniuses had the potential of a hidden dragon. Their combat strength was not any weaker than Xiao Chen's group. The gathering of so many peerless geniuses was obviously the doing of the big shots of the Central Divine region. They had really linked the 400 Spirits graveyards together. At this moment, the peerless geniuses of the four regions were clashing head-on for the first time in the 100 Spirits graveyard. Please collect, recommend, reward. Chapter 64. The prodigies of the four regions met in the 100 Spirits graveyard for no reason, but none of them noticed it at all. Just like Xiao Chen, he didn't know what the Heavenly Thunder Hall the purple-robed young man was talking about. Seeing that Xiao Chen didn't care about the Heavenly Thunder Hall at all, the purple-robed young man was infuriated. Without a second word, he brandished his dark weapon, an azure gold long rod. With the dark weapon in hand, the purple-robed young man moved his feet and immediately attacked Xiao Chen. Facing the purple-robed young man's attack, Xiao Chen didn't have time to think. He brandished his sword and the two of them clashed. The purple-robed young man was surrounded by the power of lightning as though he was a bolt of lightning descending from the heavens. Compared to the purple-robed young man, Xiao Chen's sword qi was awe-inspiring. The full eruption of his sword qi at the Greater Mastery stage wasn't any weaker than the purple-robed young man's lightning power. Sword qi at the Greater Mastery stage? Interesting, but you're still going to die. The purple-robed young man could tell at a glance that Xiao Chen's sword aura had reached the Greater Mastery stage. Seeing this, the purple-robed young man was surprised. Xiao Chen looked about the same age as him, but his sword aura had reached the Greater Mastery stage. The purple-robed young man had never seen someone like him. Of course, this surprise only lasted for a moment. Along with a furious roar, the purple-robed young man swept his long rod across. Seeing this, Xiao Chen raised his sword to block and perfectly defended against the purple-robed young man's attack. Xiao Chen perfectly defended against the attack. Then, Xiao Chen moved his feet and executed the clear shadow step. At the same time, the sword in his hand flicked upwards and the golden killing swordsmanship instantly erupted. Two transcendent stage profound martial techniques? Looking at Xiao Chen's series of actions, the purple-robed young man was astonished once again. Xiao Chen was simply heaven-defying. His strength wasn't any weaker than his at all. How was this possible? Could it be that this kid also has the potential of a human sovereign? The purple-robed young man thought to himself. In the eyes of the purple-robed young man, Xiao Qin was a supreme genius with the potential of a human sovereign. However, he didn't dare to stop his movements even for a moment. He narrowly dodged Xiao Qin's series of attacks. The purple-robed youth was also enraged. The battle continued. After hundreds of fierce moves, neither of them could do anything to the other. Seeing this, the purple-robed young man aimed at Wang Hu and the others, and shouted in a cold voice. "Who are you? If you don't, I'll kill all of them. Do you believe me?" They tried to force out Xiao Qin's identity, but in response, Xiao Qin replied coldly. "You can try. If you kill one person, I will kill two of you." While the purple-robed young man used Wang Hu and the others to threaten him, Xiao Qin also used the purple-robed young man's people to threaten him. Hearing Xiao Qin's reply, the purple-robed young man roared furiously and attacked first. With a finger, another East Sword Pavilion disciple perished on the spot. He couldn't even block a single move. It was no exaggeration to say that facing the purple-robed young man's attacks, even if Xiao Qin wanted to save him, he was powerless. However, while he couldn't save Wang Hu and the others, if Xiao Qin wanted to kill, the purple-robed young man couldn't save them either. An eye for an eye. Xiao Qin slashed out twice consecutively, killing two Heavenly Thunder Hall disciples on the spot. Seeing that Xiao Qin actually dared to kill his own people, the purple-robed young man was completely enraged. Who in the entire West Sea domain dared to kill his Heavenly Thunder Hall disciples? Unable to restrain his anger, the two of them engaged in a great battle while killing the other side's people. After 15 minutes, the East Sword Pavilion side had been completely annihilated. Wang Hu, Zhao Kuo and Qing Hai were all dead. At this point, apart from Xiao Qin, those from the East Sword Pavilion who had entered the 100 Spirits Graveyard had all been annihilated. At the same time, while the Heavenly Thunder Hall's disciples had more people than the East Sword Pavilion, they were also completely annihilated by Xiao Qin. It could be said that both sides had suffered great losses. Apart from Xiao Qin and the purple-robed young man, the others had all perished on the spot. Looking at the corpses all around him, the purple-robed young man couldn't help but tremble in anger. His gaze towards Xiao Qin was filled with killing intent. At the same time, while Xiao Qin still had an indifferent expression on his face, his eyes were similarly filled with killing intent. Both of them were already bursting with rage. However, it wasn't that easy for them to kill each other. As their gazes met, the purple-robed young man coldly shouted, "Good, very good. In the entire West Sea domain, no one has dared to kill a disciple of my Heavenly Thunder Hall. Even the Wind Emperor and the others wouldn't dare to do so. Tell me your name. I, Gu Lei, will remember you. I will definitely kill you in the future, West Sea domain." Hearing Gu Lei's words, Xiao Qin was stunned. "Then," he said, "you're saying that you're from the West Sea domain?" You don't know me?" asked Gu Lei. "Why did someone from the West Sea domain come to my Eastern Sun region?" asked Xiao Qin. One from the West Sea domain, while the other from the Eastern Sun region. As the two conversed, the truth of the matter gradually surfaced. Gu Lei knew that Xiao Qin was a disciple of the Eastern Sun region's East Sword Pavilion, as well as one of the Eastern Sun region's 5 great hidden dragons, the titled Demon Sword. Meanwhile, Xiao Qin also knew that Gu Lei was a disciple of the West Sea region's Heavenly Thunder Hall, as well as one of the West Sea domain's 4 sovereigns, the titled Thunder Emperor. 2 peerless geniuses from different regions had actually met in the 100 Spirits Graveyard. Both of them were filled with doubts about this. One must know that both of them had entered the 100 Spirits Graveyard from their respective regions. So, how did they meet? That's impossible. Filled with doubts, it was still Gu Lei who retreated first in the end. The matter was too strange. Moreover, all the disciples of the Heavenly Thunder Hall had already been killed by Xiao Qin. It was obviously unwise to stay behind and fight to the death with Xiao Chun. The most important thing now was to figure out what was going on and why people from the two regions would meet in the 100 Spirits graveyard. Gu Lei chose to retreat. Xiao Chun didn't stop him. He also wanted to figure out what exactly was going on and what exactly was going on in the 100 Spirits graveyard. After figuring out the other party's identity, the other peerless geniuses had also discovered the changes in the 100 Spirits graveyard. The peerless geniuses from different regions had met in the 100 Spirits graveyard and a huge battle had broken out. At the same time, the elite disciples who had followed these peerless geniuses into the 100 Spirits graveyard were all dead. It made sense. How could ordinary people like them participate in a battle between peerless geniuses? In an instant, only the peerless geniuses from the 4 regions were left in the 100 Spirits graveyard. As for the others, they were sent out of the 100 Spirits graveyard. Of course, they were only sent out as corpses. While a huge change had occurred in the 100 Spirits graveyard, a huge commotion had also occurred in the 4 regions in the outside world. Corpses were sent out one after another. In the end, after counting the corpses, the big shots of the 4 regions discovered that apart from the peerless geniuses, everyone else had been killed. It was simply unbelievable. How was this possible? Everyone was wiped out in less than a day. What exactly happened in the 100 Spirits graveyard? Seeking collection, recommendation, reward. Chapter 65. In less than a day after entering the 100 Spirits graveyard, over 100 people from the 4 regions had been annihilated. Only the supreme geniuses were left inside. Such an unforeseen event naturally made the big shots from the 4 regions unable to sit still. They had already sensed that something was amiss, but there was nothing they could do. The entrance to the 100 Spirits graveyard had already closed and couldn't be opened again. They didn't know what had happened in the 100 Spirits graveyard and whether their supreme geniuses were still alive. The big shot from the Leshan prefecture said in a deep voice at the entrance of the 100 Spirits graveyard. The 100 Spirits graveyard is too strange this time. No matter how mischievous those 5 brats are, it's impossible for them to kill everyone. Yeah, it hasn't even been a day, said the big shot from the Fire Cloud sect. The entrance to the 100 Spirits graveyard has already closed. There's no other way but to wait. I hope those brats can survive, said Song Xian. They had no choice but to wait for the 100 Spirits graveyard to take the initiative to send them out 3 months later. The big shots had heavy hearts. The only thing they could be thankful for was that no supreme geniuses had perished yet. Because once they died, their corpses would be sent out. Since they hadn't seen their corpses yet, it meant that they were still alive. They decided to guard the 100 Spirits graveyard for 3 months. Song Xian and the other 4 big shots didn't plan to leave. Apart from the Eastern Sun region, the big shots from the West Sea region, Northern Peak region and Southern Wind region were also prepared to guard the 100 Spirits graveyard for 3 months. A shocking change had occurred in the 100 Spirits graveyard in the 4 great regions. The situation had been spread out by the experts from the various clans and sections. In an instant, the attention of the 4 great regions was focused on the 100 Spirits graveyard. Everyone wanted to know what had happened in the 100 Spirits graveyard. Just as countless people were guessing, a light mirror with a diameter of a few thousand meters appeared in the sky above the 400 Spirits graveyards at almost the same time. Following the appearance of the light mirror, images soon appeared on the light mirror. Those images were of the supreme geniuses who were still in the 100 Spirits graveyard. The 5 dragons of the Eastern Sun region, the 4 sovereigns of the West Sea domain, the 6 venerables of the Northern Mountain region, and the 3 kings of the Southern Wind region, a total of 18 people, corresponding to the 18 images on the mirror. That's... The leaders of the 4 regions stared blankly at the light mirrors in the sky. They recognized their own prodigies, but who were those strangers? This person. He's wearing the uniform of the Eastern Sun region's Fire Cloud sect. Why would someone from the eastern sun region come to our northern peak region? At first, they did not recognize the identities of the geniuses. However, they were all experienced people who had gone out to explore when they were young. Soon, people began to recognize the identities of the geniuses based on their clothing and other clues. This person is from the West Sea region's Heavenly Thunder Hall. This kid is from the Blood Devil Hall in the East Sun region. Why would people from the West Sea domain appear in our South Wind region? And what's up with the people from the East Sun region? As the identities of the geniuses were recognized one by one, a loud voice boomed from the sky. Everyone, a golden age has arrived. Geniuses from the 4 regions have emerged. The 5 dragons of the East Sun region, the 4 sovereigns of the West Sea region, the 6 sovereigns of the Northern Peak region, and the 3 kings of the South Wind region. These are the top geniuses of your respective regions. Now, through the opportunity of the 100 Spirits Graveyard, we've given them a chance to clash head-on. The voice resounded in the sky and spread throughout the 4 regions. Upon hearing the voice, the leaders of the 4 regions immediately reacted. Everyone murmured in shock. It's the dominators of the Central Divine Territory. They immediately guessed that the dominators of the Central Divine Territory had taken action. Compared to the Central Divine Territory, it was no exaggeration to say that the 4 regions were just barren lands of the Heavenly Chen continent. The ones who truly dominated the Heavenly Chen continent were the 7 dominators of the Central Divine Territory. Not only were they invincible in the Heavenly Chen continent, but the forces that they created had also stood tall for thousands of years. Everyone in the Heavenly Chen continent respectfully addressed them as dominators, which implied that they were the rulers of the Heavenly Chen continent. No one expected that the dominators would actually take action and link the 400 spirits graveyards together. All the mysteries were solved. Soon after, everyone became excited because of the clash between the geniuses of the 4 regions. One had to know that just the clash between the geniuses of one region was enough to make people's blood boil. Now that the geniuses of the 4 regions had gathered together, everyone was looking forward to seeing what would happen next. The news spread like wildfire across the 4 regions. When they learned that the dominators had taken action and gathered the geniuses of the 4 regions, countless people rushed to the entrances of the 100 spirits graveyards frantically. Everyone wanted to witness the first clash between the geniuses of the 4 regions. It wasn't just the 4 regions. In the Central Divine Territory, 7 similar light mirrors appeared on the main plaza of the 7 overlords. It could be said that the 7 dominators of the Heavenly Chen continent had put in a lot of effort for the clash between the geniuses of the 4 regions. At that very moment, the entire Heavenly Chen continent was watching the first clash between the geniuses of the 4 regions. The entire Heavenly Chen continent was in an uproar. At that very moment, a huge light screen appeared in the sky above the 100 spirits graveyard. On the light screen, there was a golden radiance. Soon, 18 golden names appeared. The 18 names represented the 18 top geniuses in the 100 spirits graveyard. Along with the appearance of the light screen, 7 illusory figures appeared in the sky above the 100 spirits graveyard. Their bodies emitted different colored radiances. The 7 of them were the 7 dominators of the Heavenly Chen continent. Of course, they were only their divine consciousness avatars and not their actual bodies. When the 7 dominators appeared, one of them spoke in a gentle voice. Top geniuses of the 4 regions. Although you were born in different regions, you are already standing at the peak of the younger generation at such a young age. You have never been defeated by anyone in the same realm. Today, the 100 Spirits Graveyard will be your stage. You will be able to compete with the top geniuses of the same realm, the 5 dragons of the Eastern Sun region, the 4 sovereigns of the West Sea region, the 6 sovereigns of the North Mountain region, and the 3 kings of the South Wind region. All of you have your own legendary experiences. Today, when a legendary battle meets a legendary battle, you can fight without any fear because there are no weaklings here. There are only people in the same realm as you. For 3 months, you can fight as you wish in the 100 Spirits graveyard. At the same time, you can search for your own opportunities. After 3 months, the one who can stand at the peak will be the king of geniuses. Please collect, recommend, reward. Chapter 66. After gathering the heaven's prides from the 4 regions, the ruler slowly said. In the end, he suddenly raised his voice and shouted heroically, "The strong will eventually stand proudly at the peak, while the weak will eventually be annihilated. This is the first time you have met a heaven's pride of the same level. Whether you are a dragon or a worm will depend on your own strength. That's all I have to say. Fellow heaven's prides, begin your performance. Will you step on others to reach the peak, or will you be used as a stepping stone by others? I look forward to your performance." As soon as he finished speaking, the 7 rulers' phantoms slowly disappeared and the sky returned to its original calm state. Only the huge light screen remained. They already knew that the 400 Spirits graveyard had been linked together by the rulers. As for the foreign heavens prides that they had met earlier, they were likely from the other regions. After figuring everything out, a soaring battle intent erupted from everyone's body. 18 top heavens prides, 18 soaring battle powers. Haha, the heavens prides from the 4 regions have gathered together? Interesting, interesting. A tall and sturdy young man stood on a towering ancient tree and said loudly. His eyes were filled with excitement. Dragon or worm? I don't want to become someone's stepping stone. Beside the lake, a young man holding a folding fan said with a smile. His voice was calm, but the battle intent in his eyes had already been completely ignited. Facing the gathering of heaven's prides from the 4 regions, no one panicked in the slightest. On the contrary, they were incomparably excited. These were heaven's prides. They were never afraid of battle. Ever since they were young, they had always been at a height that ordinary people couldn't reach. Now, there wasn't a single weakling in the entire 100 Spirits graveyard. Everyone was a heaven's pride. How could they not be excited? It was lonely at the top and invincible. This wasn't what all the sky prides wanted. They were looking forward to having an unbridled fight amongst themselves. However, there had been too few people who could fight against them all this time. There was practically no one in the same realm as them. Now, the rulers had given them the opportunity to gather everyone in the 100 Spirits graveyard with their great mystiques. In the outside world, through the light screen, everyone could see the heavens prides in the 100 Spirits graveyard laughing wantonly as their battle intent soared. In the eastern Yang region, Song Xian's eyes were fixed on a young man in white standing proudly on a mountain peak in the mirror. This person was Xiao Chen. Although Xiao Chen was not as arrogant as the others, the faintly discernible smile at the corner of his mouth and the unconsciously revealed light in his eyes all proved that Xiao Chen was also excited at this moment. Like the other geniuses, Xiao Chen was no exception. When encountering an opponent of the same level, Xiao Chen had no fear, only excitement and anticipation. Finally, the stage that belongs to you? Chen, the geniuses of the 4 regions are gathered here. How far can you go? Song Xian mumbled to himself as he looked at Xiao Chen standing proudly on the mountain peak. At this moment, even he could not help but feel excited. He had forgotten how long it had been since he had been so excited. Xiao Chen was his disciple, and Song Xian wanted to see if Xiao Chen would be able to carve a path to the top on this stage where all the geniuses gathered. On the mountain peak, Xiao Chen's battle intent was faintly discernible in his eyes. According to what the ruler had said, the 4 regions prodigy battle would last for 3 months. During these 3 months, everyone could fight as they wished. Of course, the final battle would be held in the center, and the final winner would be the strongest genius of the 4 regions. In addition to the battles between the geniuses, everyone could also search for Xianling and find an opportunity to break through to the Xianling stage within these 3 months. At the same time, in order to increase the intensity of the 4 regions prodigy battle, the rulers had also released a type of demonic creature called the resentful ghost into the 100 Spirits graveyard. The resentful ghost was formed from a person's soul after death. It had no thoughts and only knew how to kill. Resentful ghosts were commonly seen on the battlefield or in some death zones. There were strong and weak resentful ghosts. The weak ones were only at the yellow stage, while the strong ones could even reach Zhang Xian's level. Let's search for Xianling first. Otherwise, if someone else breaks through to the Xianling stage first, I'm afraid that we will only be tortured. After sorting out his thoughts, Xiao Chun finally decided to search for Xianling first. After making his decision, Xiao Chen leaped down from the mountain peak and rushed towards the core area of the 100 Spirits graveyard. As the 400 Spirits graveyards were linked together, the area of the 100 Spirits graveyard was 4 times larger than before. Naturally, there were more Xianling within, and it was enough for 18 geniuses to break through to the Xianling stage. Like Xiao Chen, the others also decided to break through to the Xianling stage first. The reason was simple. It was not worth it to look for others to battle now. This was because while you were looking for others to battle, others might be looking for Xianling as well. If someone broke through to the Xianling stage first, it would be like the end of the world. Everyone was a top-notch genius. It was difficult to determine the victor if they were of the same level, let alone an opponent of a higher level. Therefore, if someone broke through to the Xianling stage first, it would be a nightmare for the other geniuses who had yet to break through. Therefore, before this, everyone had to ensure that the gap between their cultivations would not be widened. This was the most important thing. Of course, while searching for Xianling, they would naturally have to battle if they met by chance. However, in the first stage, before everyone broke through to the Xianling stage, they would not deliberately look for each other. If they met, they would battle. If they did not meet, then forget it. At the same time, from all directions, all the geniuses rushed to the core area like Shaochen. They had to break through to the Xianling stage as soon as possible. This was the key to the first stage. It could be said that if someone did not break through to the Xianling stage in the first stage, they would be eliminated. Because they were one level behind, they would only be abused. All the geniuses moved at the same time. The outside world could see everyone's movements through the light mirror. Everyone could guess what the geniuses were planning. Many people murmured. It seems like the first stage is a test of cultivation speed. If someone's cultivation speed is too slow and the gap is widened, then they will definitely lose in the second stage. Everyone wanted to break through to the Xianling stage as soon as possible. This would depend on whether there was a gap in their cultivation speed. If there was a gap, then there was no need to compete in the second stage because they would not be a match at all. Everyone had the same idea. The clash between the geniuses had officially begun. Rushing all the way to the core area, Xiao Chen thought to himself as he ran. The others should also break through to the Xianling stage as soon as possible. Their cultivation cannot be widened. This is the prerequisite. Otherwise, everything will be empty talk. Please add, recommend, reward. Chapter 67. Along the way, Xiao Chun did not encounter any other geniuses. Thinking about it, the 400 spirits graveyards were linked together and the area was huge. It was not easy for 18 geniuses to meet in the middle of the 100 spirits graveyard. Only when everyone had found enough Xianling and finally met in the center of the 100 spirits graveyard, could a real battle break out. In the first stage, no one would actively look for each other because everyone's goal was to break through to the mysterious Ian realm. Along the way, Xiao Chen was lucky enough to encounter the first Xianling. It had a human form and was emitting a faint white light. However, it was very illusory. This was a Xianling. It slowly floated in the air, as if it was being blown away by the wind. Seeing a Xianling for the first time, Xiao Chen's eyes flashed with excitement. Then, without hesitation, he moved his body and directly grabbed the Xianling. As if it felt the incoming danger, the originally slow Xianling suddenly sped up and retreated like lightning, dodging Xiao Chen's attack. Its speed was extremely fast. Obviously, it was not easy to capture a Xianling. First, one's speed had to be able to catch up with it. Otherwise, it would be impossible to capture it. Previously, in the 100 Spirits graveyard, it was basically 3 elite disciples working together to successfully capture a Xianling. But now, Shao Chen had no helpers and could only rely on himself. Using the clear shadow steps, his body turned into a sword light and chased after the Xianling. After running for thousands of meters, Shao Chen finally caught up with the Xianling. Without hesitation, Shao Chen stretched out his hand and grabbed the Xuanling's neck. Then, using his own spiritual power, he refined the Xianling into a Xianling elixir in a short period of time. Xianling did not have any attacking power. So, as long as one's speed could catch up, one could usually capture it. However, it was easier said than done to catch up with a Xianling. In the Yellow Realm, perhaps only a top genius like Shao Chen could match the speed of a Xianling. After successfully capturing the first Xianling, Shao Chen kept the Xianling elixir. At the same time, a terrifying scream came from in front of Shao Chen. A resentful ghost emitting black gas was rapidly attacking them. These resentful ghosts were not the products of the 100 Spirits graveyard. They were placed here by the dominators to increase the difficulty for Shao Chen and the others. Unlike Xianling, resentful ghosts had strong attacking power. Although they did not have intelligence, their killing instinct made them extremely powerful. As long as one did not completely destroy them, they would not retreat. The resentful ghost was comparable to the completion of the Yellow Realm. Realm Blazing Red Sword Technique. With a slash, a fiery red blazing sword aura of the blazing sword attacked. Red blazing sword attacked the resentful ghost. And blazing sword attack. And blazing sword. Blazing sword. A. Blazing red blazing. One resentful ghost was not a threat to Shao Chen. However, if he encountered a group of resentful ghosts, it would be troublesome. Shao Chen secretly decided that he had to be careful. He could not be surrounded by resentful ghosts. Otherwise, it would be difficult to escape. After killing the resentful ghost and obtaining another Xianling elixir, Shao Chen continued to search for Xianling. At the same time, the others had also entered the core area. Many of them had also obtained their first Xianling elixir. It was a race against time to break through to the Xianyuan realm. Therefore, everyone did not relax at all. They entered the core area from all directions and rushed towards the center. One could imagine that after the geniuses passed through the core area and arrived at the center of the 100 Spirits graveyard, they would meet each other. At that time, the first stage of the competition would be over. The next stage would be a head-on collision. They headed towards the center of the 100 Spirits graveyard from different directions. Along the way, they killed resentful ghosts and harvested Xianling. That was only the first stage. The second stage would be the battle after everyone met at the center. At that time, if anyone had not broken through to the Xianyuan realm, the result would be obvious. They would definitely be at the bottom. Along the way, Shao Chen hunted for Xianling and killed the resentful ghosts that blocked his way. After 3 full days, Shao Chen still had not passed through the core area. He had not even covered 1/5 of the journey. It had to be said that after the 400 Spirits graveyard were connected together, the area was really too large. In addition, they still had to hunt for Xianling, so their speed was not fast. Thinking about it, it would take at least a month to pass through the core area. Furthermore, Shao Chen found that the number of vengeful spirits was increasing as he went deeper into the forest. By now, the vengeful spirits that Shao Chen had encountered had begun to form group. He had hardly encountered any vengeful spirits that were alone. It seemed that in order to battle with the other geniuses, they would have to pass through the resentful ghosts test. At this rate, they would definitely be attacked by a group of resentful ghosts. If they were unable to defeat the group of resentful ghosts, they would not be able to pass through the core area, not to mention meeting the other geniuses. Time passed day by day. Half a month later, the geniuses had already covered half of the journey. However, as they went deeper, their speed became slower and slower. Until now, everyone had been traveling during the day and finding a safe place to rest at night. There was no other choice. At this point, the number of resentful ghosts was already very high. Every time they encountered a resentful ghost, there would be at least 10 of them. In addition, it was absolutely unwise to fight the resentful ghosts in the dark. Hence, when night fell, everyone could only choose to rest. Their speed became even slower. However, after half a month, the geniuses' harvest was not small. Almost everyone had dozens of spirit-intensifying pills. Sitting cross-legged on the trunk of a large tree, Xiao Chen already had 58 spirit-intensifying pills on him. However, this was still not enough. According to Xiao Chen's plan, he would need at least 100 spirit-intensifying pills to break through to the mysterious Ian realm. An ordinary mysterious spirit martial body was simply not enough to enter Xiao Chen's eyes. Xiao Chen's goal was the perfect mysterious spirit martial body. In order to achieve this, he would need a lot more spirit-intensifying pills. At the same time, under the condition that he had enough spirit-intensifying pills, whether he could achieve the perfect mysterious spirit martial body would depend on his own talent. Xiao Chen closed his eyes and sat cross-legged, immersing himself in cultivation. After an unknown period of time, Xiao Chen acutely sensed the aftermath of a battle in the dark, and it was not far from him. He slowly opened his eyes and looked in the direction of the battle's aftermath. He said slowly, "Did we encounter a resentful ghost? I don't know who it is." He guessed that someone must have encountered a resentful ghost. Meeting a resentful ghost at night was not a good thing. After pondering for a while, Xiao Chen finally decided to go and take a look. If Chen Ling encountered a resentful ghost, then he would naturally lend a helping hand. But if it was someone else, then forget it. Let's talk about the update time. Currently, there is a minimum of 3 updates per day, 1 update at noon, 1 update at 4 in the afternoon, and 1 update at 8 in the evening. There may be a delay of more than 10 minutes on the website, but there won't be too much of a difference. Brothers, please note down the time. When it's time, there will definitely be an update. Also, I hope that brothers will support me more. Chapter 68. Along the way, Xiao Chen was very careful as he followed the direction of the battle. After all, it was too difficult to fight with vengeful ghosts at night. In the darkness, those vengeful ghosts were invisible. Even with Xiao Chen's perception, it was difficult to detect them. After searching for a few hundred meters, Xiao Chen found the location of the battle. He stood on a big tree and looked at the battle below with a hint of surprise in his eyes. He originally thought that the other geniuses had accidentally encountered vengeful ghosts. However, at this moment, Xiao Chen actually saw a snake fighting fiercely with a group of vengeful ghosts. A small green snake about half a meter long was facing the encirclement of more than 30 vengeful ghosts. That's right, it was a demonic beast whose combat power was equivalent to the completion of the Yellow Realm. It should be a demonic beast. He did not expect to encounter a demonic beast in the 100 Spirits graveyard. This was really strange. Were there demonic beasts in the 100 Spirits graveyard? He had never heard of them before. He did not expect that there would be demonic beasts in the 100 Spirits graveyard. Originally, Xiao Chen did not intend to help. However, after seeing the fear in the small snake's eyes, Xiao Chen did not know why, but after a short moment of hesitation, he still chose to help. He directly unsheathed the Qingyun sword without holding back. The sword qi of the perfection stage was completely unleashed. The golden killing swordsmanship, a low-class profound-level martial technique, was displayed. Countless golden sword rays descended from the sky and immediately killed more than half of the vengeful ghosts. After succeeding in his attack, Xiao Chen moved and directly came to the side of the small snake. Seeing Xiao Chen appear, the small snake instinctively felt that Xiao Chen did not have any ill intentions towards it. Its eyes flashed with a very human-like light and its body subconsciously hid behind Xiao Chen. Looking at the frightened small snake, Xiao Chen felt a little helpless. At the same time, he did not think much and directly said, "Follow me." It didn't realize that this was a demonic beast. Level 1 demonic beasts obviously couldn't understand human language. However, after Xiao Chen spoke, the little snake actually nodded and obediently followed behind Xiao Chen. Holding the Qingyun sword, Xiao Chen led the little snake forward step by step. Because of the attack just now, the remaining resentful ghosts had already hidden themselves. For a moment, Xiao Chen was unable to determine their location. He could only wait for them to reveal themselves. Xiao Chen was surrounded by darkness. He walked forward cautiously. He did not know when the vengeful ghosts would come out of the darkness. He raised his perception to the limit and paid close attention to his surroundings. It was also at this moment that 3 resentful ghosts rushed out of the darkness without any warning. Seeing this, Xiao Chen swung the clear sky Jian-E sword in his hand and used the scorching fire sword technique. The fiery red scorching fire sword Qi directly cut the 3 resentful ghosts in half. He killed the 3 resentful ghosts in one blow. However, it was not over yet. There were at least 7 or 8 resentful ghosts hiding in the darkness. He still could not be careless. Darkness was the best protection for the resentful ghosts. It was difficult to determine their location when they hid in the darkness. Along the way, the 7 or 8 resentful ghosts that were lucky enough to survive constantly attacked. Even though they were already extremely careful, after Xiao Chen killed the last resentful ghost, he was also injured. It was not easy to find a safe place. It was a naturally formed tree hole. Xiao Chen and the little snake entered together. It should be safe here. Xiao Chen secretly heaved a sigh of relief. It was not until now that Xiao Chen had the opportunity to take a good look at the little green snake in front of him. Perhaps because Xiao Chen had saved it, the little snake was not guarded against Xiao Chen. Even after noticing Xiao Chen's gaze, it took the initiative to rub its head against Xiao Chen. Its behavior was extremely intimate. The little snake's action stunned Xiao Chen. Is this a monster beast? It's too smart. Not only can it understand human language, but its expression is also so human-like. Its intelligence is obviously not inferior to humans. Xiao Chen had never seen such a monster beast before. This little snake gave him a very strange feeling. It was completely different from ordinary monsters. Xiao Chen sized up the little snake with a strange gaze. In response, the little snake curled up in Xiao Chen's arms and fell into a deep sleep. The little green snake could not speak, but it could understand what Xiao Chen was saying. Moreover, unlike ordinary monsters, the little snake did not seem to be aggressive at all. Moreover, it was extremely intimate with Xiao Chen, as if Xiao Chen was its relative. One should know that under normal circumstances, demonic beasts would never get close to humans. Humans hunted demonic beasts for their inner cores, while demonic beasts would devour humans to strengthen themselves. The two were natural enemies. It was no exaggeration to say that except for those demonic beasts that were forcibly tamed and engraved with a slave seal that could be controlled by humans, the other demonic beasts would definitely be very aggressive towards humans. However, this little snake was not aggressive at all, or it should be said that it was not aggressive towards Xiao Chen at all. On the contrary, it trusted and relied on Xiao Chen very much. Xiao Chen felt a little helpless. However, facing the little snake, his intuition told him that it should be just a cub. Moreover, a cub could have the battle strength of the completion of the Yellow Realm. It could be seen that the little snake's blood meridian was very powerful. After confirming that the little snake was not hostile to him and would not hurt him, Xiao Chen began to close his eyes and sit with his legs crossed. In the outside world, through the light mirror, people also saw that Xiao Chen had saved a little green snake. At this time, when they saw the little snake curled up in Xiao Chen's arms and fell into a deep sleep, many people could not stay calm. This monster. Not only Xiao Chun, but people also wondered why the little snake was so dependent on Xiao Chun. However, this thought only flashed through their minds. A monster was not enough to attract people's attention. Xiao Chun stayed in the tree hole for a night until the next morning. When he was ready to leave, he turned around and said to the little snake, "You can go by yourself. There shouldn't be any danger during the day. At night you just need to find a place to hide." After finishing his words, Xiao Chun turned around and left. However, after 2 steps, Xiao Chun felt that the little snake had been following behind him and had no intention of leaving. It followed him all the way. Eventually, Xiao Chun felt helpless. Was he being pestered by a demonic beast? It was not the first time that Xiao Chun had scolded the little snake and asked it to leave. He did not have the habit of bringing a demonic beast with him. However, in the face of his scolding, the little snake would show a pitiful look every time. Its expression was extremely human-like, like a child who was sad after being scolded by an adult. It was definitely much more intelligent than other monsters. In the end, after many fruitless attempts, Xiao Chun turned around for the last time and looked at the little snake with a pleading face. He shook his head helplessly and said, "Do you want to follow me?" Hearing Xiao Chun's words, the little snake immediately nodded. Seeing this, Xiao Chun said, "Well, okay, but you have to listen to me in the future, understand? Please collect, recommend, reward." Chapter 69. Facing the little green snake's pleading gaze, Xiao Chun finally agreed. Firstly, Xiao Chun couldn't refuse the little green snake. Secondly, Xiao Chun was also very curious about the little green snake. Moreover, the little green snake didn't have any malicious intentions, so it wasn't a big deal to bring it along. Hearing Xiao Chun's words, the little green snake nodded repeatedly. Then, the man and the snake continued on their journey. The snake's tail coiled around Xiao Chun's waist like a belt, while its body slid along Xiao Chun's back all the way to Xiao Chun's shoulder. The little snake seemed to like the feeling of leaning on Xiao Chun's shoulder. Strangely enough, it could be said that he was carrying the little snake on his back all the way, but Xiao Chun did not feel the slightest bit of weight. It was as if the little green snake was air, coiling around his body without causing any burden at all. It was a little strange, but Xiao Chun didn't think too much about it. Right now, his mind was filled with the matter of finding the Xianling. As for the rest, he would think about it later. Along the way, while searching for the Xianling, Xiao Chun casually chatted with the little snake. The little snake couldn't speak, but it could understand Xiao Chun's words. Along the way, Xiao Chun spoke, and the little snake would either nod or shake its head to respond to Xiao Chun. "I have to give you a name. What should I call you? Or should I call you Little Snake?" Suddenly, he thought of giving this little guy a name. When it heard Xiao Chun's suggestion of calling it Little Snake, the little guy shook its head repeatedly. Apparently, it didn't like this name. Seeing that the little guy didn't like the name Little Snake, Xiao Chun helplessly smiled bitterly. Then, after pondering for a moment, he said, "Since Little Snake doesn't like it, then I'll call you Little Green." This time, Xiao Chun did not give Little Qing the right to refuse. He immediately made the decision. With a name, the two of them chatted as they searched for Xianling. Needless to say, it was really fun to have this little guy by his side. Although it couldn't speak, its intelligence surprised even Xiao Chun. It was simply too smart. Along the way, Xiao Chun deliberately used things about cultivation to test Xiao Chun. But who would have thought that this little guy was actually so smart? Ordinary martial skills, Xiao Chun basically only needed to explain it once, and this little guy could understand it. Moreover, the proud expression in its eyes made Xiao Chun have the illusion that he was facing a human. Perhaps even a human wouldn't have the talent of Little Qing. The more he thought about it, the more curious he became about Little Qing's identity. What kind of demonic beast was it? How could it possess such terrifying talent? Along the way, Xiao Chun gradually accepted Little Qing completely. And just when Xiao Chun felt that it wasn't bad to have Little Qing by his side, he quickly regretted it. After searching for nearly an hour, Xiao Chen finally encountered the first Xianling of the day. After a long chase, he successfully captured this Xianling. But just when he was about to refine it into a Xianling pill, the lazy little Qing suddenly turned into a green light and swallowed the Xianling before he could do anything. The spoils of war were snatched by little Qing. Regarding this, Xiao Chen was stunned. Demon beasts can eat Xianling? It was the first time Xiao Chen had encountered something like this. He was puzzled, but after he came back to his senses, he looked at little Qing helplessly. Little Qing, on the other hand, returned to his body with a satisfied look on its face. It rested its head on his shoulder and returned to its previous lazy appearance. Smiling bitterly, Xiao Chen could only continue to look for new prey. It was just a Xianling. Xiao Chen wouldn't care too much about it. Originally, he thought that little Qing was just doing it on a whim, but Xiao Chen obviously didn't expect that one Xianling was just the beginning. In the following day, Xiao Chen encountered a total of 7 Xianling, but without exception, all of them were swallowed by little Qing. This little guy's speed was extremely fast. In the end, even if Xiao Chen was prepared, he still couldn't stop this little guy. A total of 7 Xianling were swallowed by little Qing. At night, Xiao Chen found a safe place and looked at little Qing in front of him. Xiao Chen purposely said with a straight face, "Little guy, these Xianling are very important to me. You're not allowed to eat them in the future, understand? I've been busy for the entire day. If this continues, how am I going to break through to the mystic origin stage?" Upon hearing Xiao Chen's scolding, little Qing revealed a look of disdain. She gestured at Xiao Chen with her delicate snake tail, as though she was saying, "What's so precious about these things?" Little Qing didn't care about Xianling at all. Looking at this, Xiao Chen was helpless. In the end, he didn't reason with little Qing anymore. Instead, he ordered little Qing not to eat his Xianling in the future. After little Qing nodded in agreement, Xiao Chen didn't harp on this matter anymore. He took out the Xianling pearls on him and counted them. There were still only 58 pearls. Today's hard work was in vain. There was not much time left, and there was still a long way to go to reach his goal. He needed at least 100 Xianling beads to make his Xianling martial body reach perfection. It seemed that he would have to work harder in the next few days. With this thought in mind, Xiao Chen didn't realize that little Qing smiled when she saw the 58 Xianling pearls. Then, without Xiao Chen's reaction, little Qing opened her mouth wide and swallowed all 58 Xianling pearls into her stomach. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. When Xiao Chen returned to his senses and wanted to stop her, all 58 Xianling pearls had already entered little Qing's stomach. Crazy. This time, Xiao Chen was going completely crazy. If he was helpless when little Qing swallowed the 7 Xianling pearls, now that little Qing had swallowed all 58 Xianling pearls, Xiao Chen was simply going crazy. This was the result of his hard work for the past half a month. Now that little Qing had swallowed it, he was back to square one. Without thinking too much, Xiao Chen grabbed little Qing and kept shaking little Qing's body while yelling anxiously, "Spit it out, little one. Spit it out right now. What am I going to do if you eat all of this?" Xiao Chen wanted little Qing to spit out the Xianling pearls in her stomach, but he was overthinking. After a full 15 minutes, not a single Xianling pearl came out of little Qing's stomach. Knowing that there was no miracle, Xiao Chen sat on the ground in despair. He glared at little Qing fiercely. "This little fella. I just told her, but she didn't listen at all. She even swallowed all the Xianling pearls on me. What should I do now? If I can't break through to the mysterious origin stage, how am I going to compete with the 4 regions' prodigies?" It was no longer helplessness, it was despair. Just as Xiao Chen was about to cry, Xiao Qing squeaked and waved its tail. Seeing Xiao Qing's actions, the expression on Xiao Chen's face gradually changed from despair to excitement. He said in disbelief, "You're right. You said you know a place with countless Xianling? Please add, recommend, reward." Chapter 70. Xiao Chen's eyes flashed with unconcealable excitement. Originally, when Little Green had eaten all of his stock, Xiao Chen already had the idea of eating snake meat. However, when he saw that Little Green actually knew about the existence of a place with countless xianling, this idea immediately disappeared. If what Little Green said was true, then wouldn't it be easy for him to break through to the mysterious Ian realm? Grabbing Little Green's neck, Xiao Chen was a little excited and a little nervous as he asked, "Is what you said true?" In the face of Xiao Chen's inquiry, Little Green nodded repeatedly. Seeing this, Xiao Chen couldn't help but laugh. Good. If this is true, then I don't have to look for xianling anymore. I can use the remaining time to break through to the mysterious Ian realm. In this way, I will definitely be the first Heaven's Pride to enter the mysterious Ian realm. Excitedly hugging Little Green, Xiao Chen asked Little Green to bring him there tomorrow. A silent night. Xiao Chen spent the night in anticipation. It couldn't be helped. It was completely because xianling was too difficult to capture. It wasn't difficult to see how difficult it was to capture xianling from the 58 xianling pills he had obtained in the past half a month. The main reason was that it was difficult to encounter xianling. In a day, at most, he would encounter 7 or 8 xianling, which was already the limit. As soon as the sky brightened, Xiao Chen couldn't wait to ask Little Green to bring him to the place it mentioned. In the face of Xiao Chen's request, Little Green was very straightforward. Perhaps it was because it knew the importance of xianling to Xiao Chen. One man and one snake went on their way. Along the way, Little Green was still lying on Xiao Chen's shoulder like before. The snake tail on its waist constantly pointed the way for Xiao Chen. It wasn't a straight path forward. After several turns, Xiao Chen arrived at a small valley. The entrance to the valley was very small, only big enough for one person to pass through. Moreover, the surroundings were overgrown with weeds and it was extremely hidden. If it wasn't for Little Green's guidance, Xiao Chen was afraid that it would be difficult for him to discover the entrance to the valley. Indicating for Xiao Chen to enter the cave, Xiao Chen didn't hesitate and carefully stepped into the cave. When Xiao Chen entered the cave, the image of Xiao Chen in the outside light mirror suddenly disappeared. There seemed to be some kind of restriction in the valley. After Xiao Chen entered the valley, the light mirror was unable to display Xiao Chen's image. Song Xian's expression changed slightly. He had been paying attention to Xiao Chen's every move. Originally, Song Xian was very satisfied with Xiao Chen's performance because Xiao Chen's speed of hunting xianling wasn't any slower than the other Heaven's Prides. In fact, he was one of the best. Only 2 or 3 Heaven's Prides could be compared to him, while the rest were slower. Originally, they thought that Xiao Chen would be the first to break through to the xianling stage with such speed. However, after Little Green swallowed Xiao Chen's xianling pills last night, everyone saw this scene through the light mirror. For a moment, the people from the 10,000 Immortals' house and the other 4 giants ridiculed Xiao Chen. At this stage, Xiao Chen's xianling pills were eaten by a demonic beast. Without a doubt, it meant that Xiao Chen was going to lose because there weren't enough xianling pills to support Xiao Chen's breakthrough to the xianling stage. After worrying for an entire night, early in the morning, Xiao Chen inexplicably entered a valley and the image disappeared. This naturally made Song Xian even more worried. It wasn't just Song Xian. Song Yun and Song Long, who had rushed over later, also had worried expressions on their faces. The 4 regions' Heaven's Prides battle was such a big event that the 2 of them naturally rushed over to the 100 Spirits graveyard. Of course, it wasn't just the East Sword Pavilion. The other 4 giants were the same. Their experts rushed over one after another, constantly paying attention to the progress of their respective Heaven's Prides. Everyone was puzzled by the disappearance of Xiao Chen's image. However, they were only slightly curious. Apart from the people from the East Sword Pavilion, everyone else quickly shifted their attention to their respective Heaven's Prides. The entire East Sword Pavilion was sweating profusely for Xiao Chen. As for the 7 rulers who had planned this 4 regions Heaven's Pride's battle, after discovering that Xiao Chen's image had disappeared, one of them entered the 100 Spirits' graveyard with his divine consciousness clone and directly arrived at the valley where Xiao Chen was. After some investigation, the ruler discovered that he couldn't enter the valley. The entire valley was shrouded in a layer of restriction. Even the entrance that Xiao Chen had entered couldn't be entered. Even a ruler couldn't enter. After several fruitless attempts, the ruler finally left helplessly. There's a restriction here. I don't know how that little fella entered. The ruler reported the matter truthfully to the other rulers. After hearing this, the other rulers pondered for a moment before replying one after another. Forget it. Perhaps this is that little fella's own opportunity. Everyone has their own opportunities, so we don't have to interfere too much. He should rely on himself to walk his own path. Let him be. Yes, that's all we can do. But I'm very curious. What exactly is in the valley that even the old drunkard can't enter? Forget it. The 100 Spirits' graveyard is the place where an ancient mighty figure fell. Moreover, it was said that he was a member of the dragon race. Such a figure isn't someone we can hope to reach. Even if he has been dead for many years, we can't break the restriction he left behind. The rulers decided not to interfere with what happened to Xiao Chen. Although it was possible for the 7 of them to force their way into the valley, it was meaningless. It was better to let nature take its course. The rulers chose to let nature take its course. Apart from the East Sword Pavilion, not many people paid attention to Xiao Chen's matter. At the same time, Xiao Chen successfully entered the valley. As soon as Xiao Chen entered, he saw that the entire valley was densely packed with mysterious spirits. There were at least 1,000 of them. He stood rooted to the ground and muttered softly, "Am I going to be rich?" This was simply like a beggar picking up gold ingot. With so many mysterious spirits, it was more than enough for him to break through to the mystic origin stage. The only troublesome thing was that he had to capture them and refine them into mysterious spirit pills. But this little trouble was totally acceptable. Xiao Chen's eyes flickered with excitement. Just as he was about to capture the mysterious spirits, Little Green, who was lying on his back, gradually emitted a green radiance. As though attracted by the radiance, the mysterious spirits in the valley rushed toward Xiao Chen and strangely entered Xiao Chen's body. He didn't even need to refine them as they directly rushed into his body. Then, a pure spiritual energy spread out. Moreover, there was an indescribable power mixed in with this spiritual energy. Thousands of mysterious spirits rushed into his body continuously. After absorbing a total of 100 mysterious spirits, Xiao Chen felt his consciousness turning blurry. Then, his vision turned black and he fainted. Please collect, recommend, reward. Chapter 71. Thousands of Xianling kept pouring into Xiao Chen's body. The huge amount of spiritual power was too much for Xiao Chen to bear, and he fell into a coma. Perhaps because Little Green knew the importance of Xianling to Xiao Chen, it did not devour any more Xianling this time. Instead, it gave all the thousands of Xianling in the valley to Xiao Chen. In less than 10 minutes, all the Xianling in the valley entered Xiao Chen's body. With so many Xianling devouring, Xiao Chen's body emitted a platinum light. His aura began to rise slowly. After 3 days, Xiao Chen's aura had reached the limit of the completion of the Yellow Realm. He was only 1 step away from breaking through the mysterious Yuan realm and achieving the Xianling martial body. Only 1 step was left. Unfortunately, Xiao Chen was in a coma and could not break through the barrier of the mysterious Yuan realm on his own. Seeing that Xiao Chen was at the critical moment of breaking through, Little Green's eyes flashed with a strange light. It came to Xiao Chen's side and fed a drop of essential blood to Xiao Chen. Essential blood was very precious to evil beasts. As Little Green's essential blood entered his stomach, Xiao Chen's cultivation immediately broke through the barrier of the mysterious Yuan realm. His cultivation also successfully broke through the barrier of the mysterious Yuan realm. After breaking through the cultivation, Xiao Chen's body also began to change. His flesh and blood were constantly strengthened. His skin and muscles were repeatedly damaged and then regenerated. After 7 days, Xiao Chen's Xianling martial body was finally forged. His appearance did not look any different from before. However, compared to the time when Xiao Chen was in the Yellow Realm, it could be said that he was in heaven and earth. He had achieved the perfect level of the Xianling martial body. Without exaggeration, Xiao Chen could kill any warrior in the completion of the Yellow Realm with just the strength of his body. Although he had successfully broken through to the mysterious Yuan stage, Xiao Chen still showed no signs of awakening. If one were to look into Xiao Chen's body, one would discover that a sword embryo was continuously forming between Xiao Chen's brows. The center of Xiao Chen's brows gave off a faint glow, and the shape of the glow was the sword embryo that was continuously forming between his brows. If Zhang Xian and the others were present, they would definitely be extremely shocked, because Xiao Chen was forming the Heavenly Law sword embryo. What was the Heavenly Way sword embryo? To put it bluntly, the Heavenly Way sword embryo was the proof of a powerful sword cultivator. Only those who truly possessed heaven-defying talent in the sword Dao could form the Heavenly Way sword embryo. This Heavenly Dao sword embryo was even more precious than the sword intent. There were hundreds of millions of sword cultivators in the Heavenly Chen continent, and there were people who had comprehended sword intent. However, no one in the entire Heavenly Chen continent had the Heavenly Sword embryo. In other words, sword chi and sword intent could be obtained through hard work, but the Heavenly Way sword embryo was destined from birth. If you weren't a heaven-defying sword cultivator, you wouldn't be able to possess the Heavenly Way sword embryo. Nurturing the sword with one's body, the Heavenly Way sword embryo was oneself, and one was the Heavenly Way sword embryo. As one grew, the Heavenly Way sword embryo would also continue to grow, until it finally became a peerless divine sword that belonged only to oneself. Those who possessed the Heavenly Way sword embryo would be able to cultivate sword techniques at a much faster speed than ordinary people. At the same time, the same set of sword techniques in the hands of those who possessed the Heavenly Way sword embryo would be at least twice as powerful. It was unexpected that Xiao Chen had managed to nurture the Heavenly Way sword embryo. As such, it wasn't an exaggeration to say that as long as Xiao Chen didn't fall, his future achievements would be unmatched by any sword cultivator in the Heavenly Chen continent. Of course, this was on the premise that Xiao Chen had to grow. The Heavenly Way sword embryo was the same as Xiao Chen, still very young. It needed time to grow. The light from the Heavenly Way sword embryo became even more intense. Just like that, another half a month passed. During this time, the 100 Spirits graveyard underwent a huge change. After Xiao Chen, the Sky Prides all found their own opportunities. Just like Xiao Chen, their images disappeared from the light mirror. The 100 Spirits graveyard was mysterious to begin with. With such an unforeseen event, the 7 rulers didn't interfere. This was an opportunity that belonged to the younger generation. If they could obtain it, it would be a good thing for the Heavenly Chen continent. Out of the 18 Sky Prides, half of their images disappeared from the light mirror. Clearly, they were the same as Xiao Chen. They had all found their own opportunities. Of course, if one were to talk about whose opportunities were better, it would probably be Xiao Chen. That was because beside Xiao Chen, there was a small green snake lazily lying down. It was the true great opportunity in the 100 Spirits graveyard. No one would have thought that it would be the true great opportunity in the 100 Spirits graveyard. After half a month, Xiao Chen finally opened his eyes. When he discovered that he had broken through to the mystic Ian realm and that his mystic spirit martial body was at the perfect level, Xiao Chen couldn't help but be overjoyed. However, this was only the beginning. After a round of inspection, Xiao Chen was stunned when he discovered the Heavenly Way sword embryo between his eyebrows. As a sword cultivator, Xiao Chen had naturally heard of the Heavenly Way sword embryo. It could be said to be a legendary existence. After all, many sword cultivators had heard of the Heavenly Way sword embryo, but they had never seen it before. They had only heard of it, but no one had seen it with their own eyes. In the beginning, Shao Chun thought that he might have made a mistake. However, after careful observation, Shao Chun finally confirmed that it was indeed the Heavenly Way sword embryo. It was exactly the same as the legends. He never imagined that he would actually possess the Heavenly Way sword embryo. For a moment, Shao Chun didn't know how to express his feelings. He sat there in a daze. After a while, Shao Chun took a deep breath and slowly stood up. Possessing the Heavenly Way sword embryo proved that no one could compare to him on the path of the sword. That was because in the entire Heavenly Chen continent, there was no one else who possessed the Heavenly Way sword embryo other than him. Regardless of the speed of improvement or the height that he could eventually reach, no one could compare to him. After calming down his emotions, the formation of the Heavenly Way sword embryo strengthened Shao Chen's confidence in climbing to the peak of martial arts. With this talent, Shao Chen believed that he would definitely be able to reach the peak of martial arts in the future and look down on all heroes. This was the recognition of his talent by the Heavenly Way. It could also be said that it was a gift from the Heavenly Way. And now, the only thing that he needed to do was to constantly grow and climb to the peak. Clenching his fists, Shao Chen gazed deeply into the sky and murmured softly, "Next, I can go and meet the geniuses of the other 4 regions. I wonder how strong the geniuses of the other 3 regions are." Shao Chen's powers had been greatly enhanced, and his heart was burning with the desire to fight. It was his first time facing geniuses from other domains, and he naturally wanted to compete with them. He wanted to see if he was stronger or weaker compared to those legendary geniuses. Collecting, recommending, rewarding. Chapter 72. He couldn't wait to compete with the geniuses from the other 3 domains. However, before that, Shao Chen wanted to familiarize himself with the Heavenly Sword embryo. It could increase the power of all sword technique. At the same time, the Heavenly Sword embryo had the most heaven-defying ability, which was to devour the sword. It could devour all the treasured swords in the world. Once the Heavenly Sword embryo completed its transformation and grew into a true treasured sword, it would be a peerless divine weapon that would accompany Shao Chen for the rest of his life. At that time, the Heavenly Sword embryo would appear in Shao Chen's hands with just a thought. At the same time, using the Heavenly Sword embryo to fight could be said to be one with the sword. Its power was much stronger than using an ordinary sword. The benefits of the Heavenly Sword embryo were too many. Just like Qin Shuru's spiritual body, Shao Chen's Heavenly Sword embryo could be considered a special body constitution. It was the most heaven-defying one. Not to mention the Heavenly Chen continent, even in the entire world, the number of people who could possess the Heavenly Sword embryo was probably less than 5. And those people were probably already sword masters. However, the Heavenly Sword embryo also had a flaw that could not be considered a flaw. In the initial stage, the Heavenly Sword embryo's power was not as strong as ordinary special body constitutions. However, in terms of growth, the Heavenly Sword embryo could completely leave other special body constitutions in the dust. This was the only flaw of the Heavenly Sword embryo. As it continued to grow, the Heavenly Sword embryo's power would become stronger in the later stages. Shao Chen happened to have a few good ordinary swords in his hands. He took out one of them. With a thought, a white light shot out from between his eyebrows and immediately devoured the long sword. It could indeed devour swords. After devouring the long sword, Shao Chen could feel that the Heavenly Sword embryo had become slightly stronger. It was also because this sword was only a mortal weapon and its grade was too low that the Heavenly Dao Sword embryo didn't benefit much from it. The higher the grade of the sword, the more benefits the Heavenly Dao Sword embryo would gain. Of course, because the Heavenly Dao Sword embryo was still in its nascent stage, it could only devour profound weapons at most. However, as time passed and the heavenly Tao sword embryo matured, it would probably even be able to devour heavenly weapons. In addition to the Qingyun sword, Shao Chun also gave his 4 mortal grade swords to the sword embryo. 4 swords were devoured in a row, but to the heavenly Tao sword embryo, this wasn't even enough to fill the gap between its teeth. Another big foodie. It seemed like he would have to look for some high-grade treasured swords in the future and nurture the sword embryo into a real treasured sword as soon as possible. That would be a huge boost to his strength. Right now, it was still in the sword embryo stage and could not be used. For the time being, he could only continue to use the Qingyun sword. However, Shao Chun believed that one day, the Heavenly Path sword embryo would definitely complete its transformation and become a peerless divine weapon that was most compatible with him. After familiarizing himself with the Heavenly Tao sword embryo, Shao Chun left the valley with little Qing. After nearly a month, Shao Chun walked out of the valley and once again appeared in front of the world. Shao Chun's image once again appeared on the mirror. Compared to a month ago, Shao Chun's strength had increased by leaps and bounds. It was a complete qualitative leap. The Zhangxian trio breathed a sigh of relief when they saw Shao Chun safely walk out of the valley. It's good that he's fine, it's good that he's fine. Shao Chun did not know that his appearance had made the Zhangxian trio heave a sigh of relief. He looked towards the central area and with a slight movement of his body, he directly rushed over. Next, it was time to meet the other heaven prides. Shao Chun could not help but feel somewhat excited about the upcoming battles. One must know that he was about to face the top younger generation of the 4 great regions. He rushed all the way to the central region. At the same time, the Sky Prides who had also lost their images also came out of their closed-door cultivation. Like Shao Chun, they had all obtained great opportunities and had broken through to the mysterious Yuan stage. Other than these geniuses who had obtained exceptional opportunities, the others had also stepped into the mysterious Yuan stage through their own efforts. The 18 exceptional geniuses had all completed the first stage of the competition. None of them were left behind, and all of them had successfully broken through. However, they would only know how powerful they were after breaking through after fighting their opponent. Walking out from an underground palace, Chun Ling had also obtained an opportunity that belonged to him. At the same time, after experiencing this opportunity, many memories that did not belong to him appeared in Chun Ling's mind. This made Chun Ling somewhat puzzled. The memories in his mind had nothing to do with him, but they gave him a very familiar feeling. Regarding this, Chun Ling could not explain it, but it could not be denied that with the appearance of these memories, Chun Ling's strength had increased by a lot. Since he could not figure it out, Chun Ling decided not to think about it any further. His figure moved and he mysteriously headed towards the outer regions. The 18 heaven prides had all broken through to the mysterious Yuan stage. At this moment, everyone only had one goal, the central area. The central area was not considered large. In order to welcome the clash between the heaven prides, the 7 great rulers had deliberately created 18 mountains in the central area. These mountains were almost the same shape, straight and steep. Although they were called mountains, they looked more like 18 giant stone pillars towering between heaven and earth. Among these 18 mountains, 8 of them were the shortest, while the other 6 were slightly taller. The tallest ones were the 4 mountains in the middle. They practically pierced through the clouds. Judging from the order of height of the 18 mountains, it was obvious that this represented the ranking of the 18 heavens' favorites. The weakest could only occupy the shortest mountain, while the strongest heavens' favorites could proudly occupy the 4 tallest mountains. They could look down on the rest of the heavens' favorites and see how small the other mountains were. All the heaven prides rushed towards the 18 mountains in the middle. Due to the increase in their strength, the vengeful ghosts that were originally a little troublesome were now not worth mentioning in the hands of the heaven prides. Whether it was day or night, the heaven prides could easily deal with the vengeful ghosts that attacked them. After a day and night of rushing, Xiao Chen easily passed through the core area and entered the central area. Not long after he entered the central area, Xiao Chen met his first heaven pride. Moreover, it was a familiar face. It was Mu Qing from the Myriad Immortal Tower. She came from another direction and the two of them met in the central area. At this moment, the two of them were not far from the 18 mountains. The two heaven prides met, and there was already enmity between the two of them. Naturally, the two of them stopped in their tracks. Through the light mirror, people quickly saw Xiao Chen and Mu Qing. This was the first pair of heaven prides to meet so far. In an instant, everyone was excited. Could it be that the first battle would begin between Mu Qing and Xiao Chen? Standing opposite of each other, Mu Qing looked coldly at Xiao Chen and said, "Xiao Chen, it seems like your luck is not too good. The first one you meet is me. Please add, recommend, reward." Chapter 73. Mu Qing didn't expect to meet Xiao Chen here, and a cold smile appeared on his face. Upon hearing his words, Xiao Chen said indifferently, "Is that so? I think you're the one with bad luck." Mu Qing didn't obtain any opportunities in the 100 Spirits graveyard. He was only able to break through to the mysterious Yuan stage by hunting mysterious spirit. He only broke through to the mysterious Yuan stage normally. Compared to Mu Qing, Xiao Chen was different. Not only did he break through to the mysterious Yuan stage, but he also activated the heavenly sword embryo. At the same time, the drop of blood essence that Xiao Chen gave him had completely transformed his body. It was just that Xiao Chen didn't know about it yet. Xiao Chen's expression did not change at all. He no longer felt any threat from Mu Qing, which meant that the gap between him and Mu Qing had been widened after he had broken through to the mystic Ian realm. Mu Qing might have been able to fight him before, but now, he was no longer a threat to him. Mu Qing was extremely confident. In the face of Xiao Chen's indifference, the anger in her heart began to rise. Thinking of what had happened in the Lingshan County, Mu Qing immediately took out her dark weapon, a long whip. The long whip was Mu Qing's weapon. Seeing Mu Qing take out his mysterious weapon, everyone in the outside world became excited as they stared at the light mirror without blinking. This was the first clash between heaven's prides. Although both of them were from the Eastern Sun region, it didn't stop the crowd from looking forward to it. "Song Xian, do you think Xiao Chen will be a match for Mu Qing?" Looking at the two who were on the verge of a fight, the head of the Myriad Immortal Tower looked at Song Xian and smiled. Perhaps in his opinion, Xiao Chen wasn't a match for Mu Qing. After all, Xiao Chen's fame was too short. Moreover, he knew that Mu Qing was a direct descendant of the Mu clan in the Central Divine region. Although he was abandoned, Mu Qing still possessed some powerful techniques that only the Mu clan possessed. In the face of the head of the Myriad Immortal Tower's provocation, Song Xian replied expressionlessly, "You're so confident even before the fight? Heh, some things are already destined." The head of the Myriad Immortal Tower laughed. This battle could be said to be the focus of the world. If Mu Qing could defeat Xiao Chen, the Myriad Immortal Tower's reputation would rise to another level and spread throughout the heavenly Chen continent. On the other hand, if Xiao Chen could defeat Mu Qing's victory, the result would be the same. Under the gazes of countless pairs of eyes, Mu Qing took the initiative to attack. The long whip in her hand was like a venomous snake as it lashed out. Mu Qing didn't hold back in the slightest as she used a low-rank profound martial skill. Mu Qing's speed was as fast as lightning. Just as the whip was about to hit Xiao Chen leaned to the side and dodged Mu Qing's attack with extreme agility. One person attacked fiercely while the other dodged. It seemed that Mu Qing had the upper hand, but anyone with a discerning eye knew that the one who had the upper hand was Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen had not taken the initiative to attack once since the start of the battle. But in the face of Mu Qing's attacks, Xiao Chen was able to perfectly dodge them. Even though Mu Qing's attacks looked incomparably fierce, they could not hurt Xiao Chen at all. Xiao Chen's physical body had become stronger, and at the same time, His perception had also been greatly enhanced. Mu Qing's attacks were clearly seen by him, so it was not difficult for him to dodge them. In Xiao Chen's view, Mu Qing's attack speed was simply too slow. After over 100 moves, Mu Qing was on the verge of going crazy. She roared at Xiao Chen. "Xiao Chen, do you only know how to dodge? Why? Are you angry?" Xiao Chen asked calmly after hearing Mu Qing's words. Unable to do anything to Xiao Chen, Mu Qing was furious. She could swear to the heavens that she did not hold back at all. But no matter how hard she tried, her attacks were perfectly dodged by Xiao Chen. It was as if a heavy punch had landed on cotton. The faces of the myriad Immortal Tower's big shots had turned gloomy, while Tsang Xian and the other two countered with relaxed expressions. "Sigh, my disciple is really a little naughty." He could have ended the battle, but he just had to tease Mu Qing. "Everyone, please don't mind. I will teach him a lesson after this. In a battle between cultivators, you can win, but you can't humiliate," Tsang Xian said with a smile. The faces of the myriad Immortal Tower's big shots turned gloomy after hearing Tsang Xian's words, but they could not find any words to refute. There was nothing they could do. Facts spoke louder than words. After easily dodging hundreds of attacks from Mu Qing, Xiao Chen finally took out his Qingyun sword and slowly unsheathed it. "Since you're bored, let's end it," Xiao Chen said indifferently with the Qingyun sword in hand. It seemed that as long as he wanted to, this battle could end at any time. Contempt. Naked contempt. Hearing Xiao Chen's words, the anger in Mu Qing's eyes intensified. "I'm coming," Xiao Chen said indifferently without caring about Mu Qing's anger. As his voice faded, he took a step forward and instantly executed the clear shadow step. At the same time, he thrust the sword in his hand forward and executed the golden killing swordsmanship. The golden killing swordsmanship was a low-grade mysterious swordsmanship. But under the enhancement of the Heaven Sword embryo, its power was no weaker than a mid-grade mysterious level martial skill. The sky was filled with sword rays, leaving no room for Mu Qing to dodge. Facing Xiao Chen's sword, Mu Qing's expression changed instantly and she said in disbelief, "How is this possible? How did you?" She didn't expect Xiao Chen's attack to be so powerful. Before she could finish her sentence, Mu Qing was engulfed by the sword rays. After dozens of breaths, the sword rays disappeared and Xiao Chen sheathed his sword. At the same time, Mu Qing appeared in front of everyone again. Her clothes were tattered and her body was full of sword wounds. She looked extremely miserable. Without looking at Mu Qing, Xiao Chen headed straight for the 18 mountains. But before he left, Xiao Chen said indifferently, "Qin Shuru is mine. She's not someone you can touch. After the 100 Spirits graveyard, I will personally visit the Qin family. I hope you won't stop me. Otherwise, I won't hold back the next time." Hearing Xiao Chen's words, Mu Qing immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. Xiao Chen had indeed held back at the last moment. Otherwise, Mu Qing wouldn't have been able to block that sword. Even if she didn't die, she would have been seriously injured. He spared her life, but Xiao Chen actually revealed that Qin Shuru was his woman? In an instant, Mu Qing couldn't contain the anger in her heart anymore. Not long after Xiao Chen left, Mu Qing lifted her head and bellowed, "Xiao Chen, if I don't kill you in this lifetime, I, Mu Qing, swear that I'm not human. Please collect, recommend, reward." Chapter 74. In Mu Qing's opinion, Xiao Chen was humiliating him. Of course, if Mu Qing knew that Qin Shuru had already given his first time to Xiao Chen, he would probably vomit blood from anger. Mu Qing was defeated with a single sword strike. Facing such a result, the myriad Immortal Tower's big shots were stunned. Not only them, but the entire heavenly Qin continent was shocked. Was this a battle between heaven's prides? How could it be over with a single sword strike? There wasn't an intense battle like they had imagined. It was a completely one-sided result. Compared to the shock of ordinary people, the 7 sovereigns of the central divine realm laughed. Seems like the gap between them is slowly widening. Yeah, even if they are peerless heaven's prides, they are still divided into different levels. After this battle, I'm afraid the heaven's prides of the 4 regions will also be divided into different levels. The 7 sovereigns were very calm about such a result, as if they had already expected it. As sovereigns, their vision was naturally much further than ordinary people. In the eyes of ordinary people, heaven's prides were unreachable existences. Perhaps in the eyes of ordinary people, the difference in strength between heaven's prides wasn't that big. But in reality, the tension between heaven's prides was even more intense. As the saying goes, the difference of a hair's breadth was 1,000 miles. The competition between heaven's prides wasn't something that happened overnight, and it wasn't something that could be decided in a single battle. There was constant competition in all aspects, and in the entire process, if one didn't keep up with the other's pace, it was very likely that the gap between them would be pulled apart, and there would be no possibility of catching up. Take Shao Chun and Qing Mu for example. Before entering the 100 Spirits graveyard, their strength could be said to be almost the same. However, in the 100 Spirits graveyard, Shao Chun met Little Qing and obtained his own opportunity, while Mu Qing didn't. As such, after breaking through to the mystic Aeon realm, relying on his own opportunity and the Heaven's Path sword embryo, Shao Chun could already crush Mu Qing. This was the tragedy between heaven's prides. Under the seemingly glamorous appearance, there was actually a hidden killing intent. The Golden Age had arrived, and geniuses had emerged in large numbers. However, only those who had truly matured could stand at the peak. During this process, countless geniuses had ultimately withdrawn from the stage of the battle for supremacy due to various reasons, vanishing from the masses. After all, there were only a few people who could reach the peak, and those who could finally stand at the peak were piled up by countless failures. The peak of success was formed by countless failures. Shao Chun did not take the fact that he had defeated Mu Qing to heart. In his mind, Mu Qing was no longer a threat. If he could crush him once, he could crush him a second time and a third time. After completely losing interest in Mu Qing, Shao Chun rushed towards the 18 peak. Right now, he wanted to see the geniuses of the other 3 regions. He had already fought with Gu Lei of the West Sea region. Judging from Gu Lei's combat strength, the top geniuses of the other 3 regions were definitely not weaker than the 5 dragons of the Eastern Sun region. Soon, Shao Chun arrived at the bottom of the 18 peak. When Shao Chun arrived, there were already 8 supreme geniuses gathered together. Among the 8, Shao Chun saw Zhao Weiyun. Upon seeing Shao Chun, Zhao Weiyun took the initiative to step forward and greeted him with a smile. Shao Chun, yes. In response to Zhao Weiyun's greeting, Shao Chun nodded faintly. Then, he began to size up the 18 peak. The 18 peaks were arranged in an orderly manner. There were a total of 3 layers. The 8 outermost peaks were the shortest, while the 6 peaks in the middle were the center. However, the most eye-catching ones were the 4 peaks in the middle. Unlike the other peaks, there was a golden dragon throne on each of the 4 peaks in the middle. Their gazes were directly locked onto the 4 golden dragon thrones. As if there was a magical power, one couldn't shift their gaze away. Not only Shao Chun, but the other geniuses' gazes were also locked onto the 4 golden dragon thrones. Everyone knew that the 4 golden dragon thrones represented the kings of the 4 regions. Only by defeating the other geniuses would one be qualified to sit on the 4 golden dragon thrones. The 18 peaks of geniuses. The geniuses had named these peaks the 18 peaks of geniuses. These peaks were the battlegrounds of the geniuses present. In the end, who would be able to sit on the 4 golden dragon thrones would be determined by the strength of the geniuses. Perhaps it was because not everyone had arrived yet, but there was a layer of restriction around the 18 genius peak. There was no way to enter. Those who arrived first could only wait on the spot. About half a day had passed. In the end, apart from Chunling, the rest of the 18 geniuses had arrived. Even Mu Qing, who had been defeated by him, had also arrived. Only Chen Ling had yet to appear. During this time, Xiao Chen also asked Zhao Yun and the rest if they had seen Chen Ling, but they all said that they hadn't. He felt a little strange and worried. In the outside world, Chen Ling's image in the light mirror couldn't be displayed for some reason. No one knew what Chen Ling's current situation was, which made the people from the Blood Demon Palace extremely worried. After waiting for another night, Chen Ling still didn't appear. In the end, the 7 sovereigns decided not to wait any longer. After all, it wasn't impossible that Chen Ling had died in the 100 Spirits graveyard. Since there was a possibility that he had already died, there was no need to waste time on a dead person. As the morning sun rose, the restrictive spell around the 18 peaks of Heaven's Pride slowly disappeared. At this moment, the 17 Heaven's Prides present were all excited. No one cared about Chen Ling anymore. Everyone's eyes were only on the 4 golden dragon thrones high up in the sky. Not only the geniuses, but even the people in the outside world had completely forgotten about Chen Ling's matter at this moment. Many of them were speaking nervously. Is it finally going to start? A head-on clash between the geniuses of the 4 regions. Yes, that's right. It's about to start. The first head-on clash between the geniuses of the 4 regions in history. Who exactly will sit on the 4 golden dragon thrones? I don't know. But judging from the battle between Xiao Chen and Mu Qing, I'm afraid that the gap between the geniuses has widened after the first stage. Everyone was looking forward to the final battle between the geniuses. At the same time, below the 18 genius peaks, one of the geniuses was the first to move. He rushed towards the 18 genius peaks and shouted, "Haha, everyone, I'll be making a move first." Upon hearing this person's shout, the others also moved. In an instant, the head-on clash between the geniuses finally erupted. "The dragon throne is mine, you think you're worthy? Get lost." "Humph, I must sit on this dragon throne today. No one can stop me. If you're not convinced, come fight me. You sure talk big. I'd like to see what the 3 kings of the South Wind region are capable of. Let's fight." Please add, recommend, reward. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.